joined here by my co-chair, Wendy Chapman, and our district manager, Lucian Reynolds, and thanks everybody for coming. So the first item on our agenda is a very exciting one, and I am really delighted to be able to introduce Tom Fox, who has really been at the forefront of urban park and waterfront development in New York City since 1975. He's the founder of the park, of the Hudson River Park, and he now serves on their advisory board, in addition to the City Club, where I know him from. And he is, of course, a great advocate for the park and its future, and has, so I would argue, incomparable knowledge about the city's waterfront and particularly that park. Tom is, in fact, completing a book on the history of the park. And so I asked him to speak a bit about some of his experience on the waterfront, the history of the park, specifically given our interest in the creation of this West Side Resiliency Task Force, which he has been a great advocate for and has actually written, which I think I shared with all of you, a terrific op-ed a week ago. So Tom, you're out there somewhere. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the board. We are delighted again to have you here, and take it away.
Thank you for your kind remarks. And Lucian, you're in charge here. There you go. I tend to speak quickly. I'm going to have to say next to Lucian. I apologize for the repetitiveness. As most of you know, Manhattan has had a lot of its area filled in over the years. You can see the extent of it next. In the 1970s, people wanted to get around Robert Moses's ripping through neighborhoods like the Cross Bronx Expressway, the BQE, and they came up with another brilliant idea: put a superhighway in the river, fill in 236 acres of the Hudson, and build a $2.5 billion roadway underneath it, and just so happened to put 3 million square feet of Manhattan on top of it. 11 years later, Westway, as they say, sleeps with the fishes. Next. Some of us were younger and had hair then. Next. But many people fought against this project. The West Side Highway was a very cool bicycle path. For those of you who were around at that time, you might remember, unobstructed, no traffic, because the highway had collapsed at Little West 12th Street. Next. The governor and the mayor wanted to find out what to do afterwards, so they set up a task force, which is where I got the idea of this task force. Basically, it was chaired by Arthur Levitt Jr., the chairman of the American Stock Exchange, and included organized labor and business and Association for a Better New York, the Port Authority, and 4 citizens, myself included. Next. We fought like Dickens and got one paragraph put in. Nobody wanted any parkland on the waterfront because they all wanted to develop. You'll read about it in the book. There's tremendous, huge development projects that were planned in the water on the West Side as late as 1986. We got them to agree begrudgingly on an esplanade. They wouldn't do anything in the water, but they agreed to an esplanade and a bicycle path along the waterfront. Next. So what did the waterfront look like? I focused on only your waterfront, as Alice suggested, not that you're at all parochial. But this is what Community Board One's waterfront looked like in 1986 or so. Next. This was children's recreation. Next. Picnicking. Next. Looking for a little shade under the trees, perhaps. Next. This is the village, same condition all the way up the waterfront. Next. Chelsea. This is picnicking, a family out on a weekend for a picnic with their child. So you can see the demand was there, but there was no supply. Next. So over the course of about 6 years, various groups morphed and reorganized and held demonstrations to build a park. This was the big one in Greenwich Village in 1989. Next. We got about 2,000 people out on Pier 45, vendors, actually even organized labor had booths out there. Because you realize that building is in the construction industry's interest. Whose interest is it in to build a park? If you're going to build a constituency, bring in the folks who have the biggest vested interest in what's going to happen here. And heavy construction rebuilds piers, earth moving, creates parks and public facilities. Next. We had boats in the water. We had sailboats going by, kayaks with signs. Next. And we had a map of the park, and we asked people to lay in what they think they would like to see in the Hudson River Park. We were calling it the West Side Waterfront Park at the time. Next. We had meetings. This is the Fashion Institute of Technology. We had one down in the Insurance Institute down that's gone right now. Next. We involved communities in the process, and this is what your waterfront looked like from a helicopter in 1986. We were charged with doing the road, so I focused particularly on the road, but you can see Pier 25 to the right. It looks a little disheveled. Next. This was Pier 32, which was condemned and not open to the public. Next. Water quality was questionable at best. Next. So the panel, which followed the task force, again, there were multiple entities, we called them, set up by the governor and the mayor, and I was appointed to this one as well. We came up with a vision for a Hudson River Park that was so bold to go in the river. And we suggested that the entire waterfront, all the way out to the tips of the piers, be mapped as a park. Next. This is what our vision of your particular area was. Pier 32 would be turned into a wildlife pier over the short term to provide nesting habitat for birds, etc. Piers 25 and 26 would be restored for maritime use and playgrounds. And next. The waterfront, the water's edge was a little sketchy at the time. This is an esplanade. It would be very difficult on this area. Next. Car parking was the primary, $5 a day. It was cheap parking. They could park here and walk into the financial district or down to Battery Park City. Not all the cars worked all the time. Next. They also had a tow pound on Pier 26 where you could go buy a car. Usually they didn't work, so you had a tow truck come and meet you there and tow them away. You can see on the sign pole, there's a little symbol. It's the Hudson River Park Conservancy. After the governor and the mayor accepted the panel's report, they set up an agency called the Hudson River Park Conservancy, and I was fortunate to be its first president. We hung those banners all the way down the west side because nobody knew it was going to be a park, and people were like, what the hell is a Hudson River Park Conservancy? This is a parking lot. Next. So we developed interim programs. First of all, we moved the Amazon Club off Pier 25. It was creating heartaches for the people in Independence Tower who tried to sleep at night with their windows open while the music was blasting off the disco scene on Pier 25. Next. Conservancy, as I said. Next. So we embraced Pier 25 as a place where things could happen and work with Bob Townley, Jimmy Gallagher, whose vessel here, Yankee, is no longer there. Next. We had historic vessels at the pier, and they were great for public viewing, and like Lilac is nowadays, but they weren't always reliable. Next. Sometimes we had some problems with the historic ships that were next to Pier 25, but the dog got out safely. Next. So when we signed the lease with Townley, it was an interim lease. It went on for almost 8 years. And he put in a golf driving range. Someone previous to him put in a golf driving range, and you can see behind him, behind that sign, Sturgeon, that's a sign of the River Project at Pier 26. You can also see the prison at Pier 40 that was there for about 5 years. Next. Townley, a guy named Vesso, and Doobie ran the place. and like Veso scheduled the volleyball courts next. They had children's play areas. We did temporary summer events like opera on the pier using the roof of Jimmy's boat next. We embraced the water, bringing in outriggers next. And the downtown boathouse, which had started at the River Project. Next. The River Project was and is a great, great asset for the city of New York, and really opened people's eyes to what's under the water, the stuff you can't see, why it's important, not just to look at, but it's alive. Next. So we institutionalized many of their programs. We did fishing programs, loads of education programs, supporting nonprofits like the River Project Next, which is now integrated into the park. But one of the big problems was getting north-south along the waterfront. This was biking and walking next. So what we did was tell the car parkers, now we were in charge, and the state DOT was no longer controlling this property. They were controlling the property on the highway. So we asked them to move all the cars 35 feet off the waterfront next. And the New York Times said there are times when small is beautiful, and this is one of them. And we put in for $1.2 million, a mile-and-a-half bicycle path from Little West 12th Street down to Chambers Street. The state DOT said it was we made them pay for it. we called it an interim pedestrian safety area adjacent to a highway under construction. They didn't think it was that creative, but they spent the $1.2 million needed to build it, and they said it was going to be abandoned, dangerous, nobody's going to use it. Next. This is 8 years later when the roadway is under construction. Doesn't look too abandoned or dangerous or underutilized to me. Again, the demand is there. If you respond to people's desire, generally you can get things done next, especially if you involve them. So we were successful in getting state DOT to include a bicycle path in with the highway. So instead of being funded by park funding, it was funded by transportation funds, $36 million next. We also, the vent shaft to the Holland Tunnel had no connection. You can see the piles on either side, excuse me, to protect it from errant vessels. You know, you have a Norwegian cruise line coming down the river. How about if it loses steering? These protected the two Holland Tunnel tubes. You can see them outlined underneath there. So they needed to rebuild the pier. We insisted that when they rebuilt the pier, they did it with wide enough access for public use next. So we got them to put in 2 finger piers out to Pier 34 next. And we're successful in getting the southern one open to the public. Next. We also we gave the park a tail, if you will. There was a problem in Battery Park City with bicyclists on the Esplanade. There still is, but we tried to alleviate it by insisting with state DOT that the park run all the way down to the Battery, so the bicycle path could connect with other bicycle paths and create a circumferential bike path around the island next. So the park has a little tail that runs down to the river. In 2013, when the Hudson River Park Act was amended, that was taken out and given to Battery Park City appropriately. But it did stop David M. Meal at one time from building out into that right-of-way when he wanted to change the boundary of Battery Park City and move the buildings out more towards the roadway. It kind of kept them back. Next. So here's what you got. You got a beautiful waterfront, and you use it well. Next. It's wide enough here that something can be done with the upland property that doesn't destroy it like this wall that's being proposed next. And you've done an incredible job in interweaving small, meaningful public amenities within that space. And that shouldn't be, they shouldn't be just dispossessed by this new infrastructure project. Next. Sorry, I used to have an Australian Shepherd and he looked like that. Next. So Pier 25 and Pier 26 are magnificent spaces. Next, the promenades, everything that was there that Townley and those guys did years ago is there in spades now. Children's recreation next. The miniature golf has gotten really upscale with a little waterfall next. Volleyball has gone way over what it was before. Next, historic vessels grace the side of your pier, thankfully. Next. And it's a beautiful embayment, but this park is threatened by this new Army Corps proposal. And you can see there's a vast difference between the landfill at Battery Park City and the 900-foot wide underwater estuarine sanctuary in the park. Next. So the Hudson River Park Advisory Council 2 months ago suggested or requested or urged that the governor and the mayor establish a city-state task force, similar to what they did back in the 1980s, to take the next step in revitalizing the West Side waterfront, to protect the park, to prevent coastal flooding, and to redesign Route 9A so it meets contemporary transportation needs. It should be done in an inclusive public process, as was done before, which is why it was successful. People actually participated. Citizens served on the entity. Meetings were held in public. Everything was transparent. Community boards, and Community Board 1, by the way, was one of the earliest and strongest and most consistent champions of the Hudson River Park, even before it was called the Hudson River Park. So we'd like to have a task force that includes the same type of mix: government, community, environmental, civic, business leaders. And let's look at this thing in toto. Next. So protecting from flood should start in the estuary. We got to save the natural systems that are there, but you have an oyster reef being built in your neighborhood. You also have nearshore environments being built, both in your neighborhood and up at Gansevoort Peninsula. We should expand those to create more in-water resistance, if you will, to tidal surges. Oyster reefs can grow 10, 12 feet high underwater. We should wrap the piers in the piles and surfaces that allow marine life to grow. Again, that slows down water resistance. Like Seattle, we should surface the bulkhead with concrete that isn't detrimental to wildlife, and with textures that allow natural systems to grow on the bulkheads. And we should do near bulkhead enhancements. Next. Again, it's already happening. The state is funding the Gansevoort Peninsula, the ecological improvements at Pier 26, and oyster restoration with $35 million. So there's money on the table, and there's a precedent, and we just passed a $4.2 billion Environmental Bond Act. So there's money. So there's a precedent, there's a need, a precedent, and money to have it happen. Next. Look at the waterway here. Look how wide it is. 900 feet wide, about a quarter of a mile from the shore out. It narrows around 14th Street to 23rd Street, but then it bells out again after the island curves. The area on Community Board 1 and 2 is particularly well suited to this approach. Next. We can't really enhance the in-water environment right now because we have 33 combined sewer outfalls going into the river every time it rains more than half an inch. What's a combined sewer outfall? Well, the sewage from the street, the oil and the candy wrappers and the newspapers and whatever, flushes into stormwater drains. They are combined with sanitary drains that are your household waste. This sewage is usually pumped to the sewage treatment plant. When it rains really heavily, it would overwhelm the sewage treatment plant, so they flush it right out into the river. That's everything from your toilet, as well as everything from the street, goes directly into the Hudson River Park estuary whenever it rains over ½ inch. Hugely detrimental to fish life, bird life, and the 58,000 people this year that actually got into the water in kayaks, let alone those people that are fishing. So we have to stop that discharge into the estuarine sanctuary. How do we do it? I failed in an attempt in 1989 to have this done, so I'm taking another tilt at the windmill. New York City Department of Environmental Protection put a 48-inch stormwater main in Perdigat Basin that captures 50 million gallons of water every time it rains, and then slowly feeds it into the sewage treatment plants so it doesn't pollute Jamaica Bay. A pipe along the waterfront, buried under the park, could capture all 33 of those stormwater outflows, stop them from going into the river, feed them slowly. Everything below 12th Street goes to Newtown Creek in Queens. Everything above 12th Street goes to North River Sewage Treatment Plant. So the water could be diverted back to those sewage treatment plants to be disposed of properly if you put this 48-inch main in. What's really good is New York City DEP bonds its own work out of water rate money. And I know last time I looked, they had the 3rd highest municipal bond rating in the United States. And the last time I tried it, I was told that they could pay for the cover on top of the pipe that gets put in, which could reduce the cost of the park landscaping in the long term. And it could also be used to match federal money that would allow the Army Corps to have more flexibility in spending. Next. Sorry, next. Thank you. Okay, Route 9A. 40 years ago, I was on this task force and we recommended a surface boulevard, but it was for like, I think 110,000 cars a day at the time. The park wasn't built. The inboard was zoned for manufacturing, transportation, warehousing. Very, very, very different world nowadays. Traffic volumes have reduced. Nobody could see what happened with the meatpacking district and Hudson Yards and Hudson Square and the High Line. And I mean, the world has changed since this roadway was built. People have been calling for micromobility lanes on Route 9A to get electric vehicles out of the park and to speed package delivery and personal movement on the west side. Congestion pricing says that the vehicular traffic below 60th Street citywide is going to be reduced 20 to 24%. Originally, we put the 19-foot median in the middle of the road to do 2 things. One is to mitigate the air and noise pollution from the road. 2 was to allow people to cross the road because it was a wide roadway. So if we're going to reduce the traffic by 20%, and we're moving towards electric vehicles that don't have noise or exhaust, can we redesign the roadway narrower? I believe we could probably take 20 to 30 feet out of the roadway. Could that allow the park to expand? Yes. And the resiliency folks like Rebuild by Design, I'm new to this resiliency thing. I'm just a park guy, and all of a sudden it's resiliency is the key word, and I'm still not sure I understand all about it. But that would allow us to put in different types of upland flood protection, like landscaped hills that are reinforced with engineering elements instead of solid walls, narrow, that you can't get over. Next. Oh, and there's $1.2 trillion federal infrastructure bill that has $110 billion for highways. So there's money for that. There's money for the stormwater retention. There's money for the in-water enhancements. What's the problem? Next. So we expand the park. I just mentioned this. Sorry, I should have had this on. I'm not used to speaking with words. Well, I do speak with words, but I don't have words on slides usually. So this is the rationale for doing more shore-based efforts and actually expanding the park. Next. Lucian? Thank you. So the decision should be made by a task force, and it should be made by all of the entities. The Hudson River Park Trust, City DEP, State DEC, City and State Departments of Transportation, and only the mayor and the governor can do that. Believe me, I was on a task force. And when you're representing the governor, you really have a lot of leeway. And when the governor tells the state agencies to do something, they do it. And similarly, when the mayor tells city agencies to do something, they do it. So we're not proposing any specific design or anything like that. I'm not. No one is. It's just a process. We really need people to think about this in a rational manner, in a more comprehensive and coordinated way. This is a long game. The U.S. Army Corps says they're not going to start until 2030, and they may be finished by 2044. I think that gives us a little time. It took 5 to 6 years for everybody to decide what to do with the park and the roadway and the estuary. That seemed to work. Now, if there's been billions of dollars invested on the west side, on the inboard and on the outboard, there are a lot of people with a vested interest in what happens here. And I can't help but believe that if the residents and the corporations that have moved into the area and the environmentalists and the construction industries who could get a couple of $1 billion worth of work out of this, and the community boards, if we couldn't get together and push hard enough, the mayor and the governor would see it's in their self-interest to do this. We're not trying to kick the can down the road. What we're trying to do is make sure that many hands make light work, and that we look at this in a way that protects the west side for the rest of the century. It's too valuable an asset to throw a wall in the middle of. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Next. Lastly, I'm going to throw this out. You should open the northern end of Pier 34. That's still closed to the public. 30 years after it was built. That's a half an acre of open space at Canal Street. Just below it, Pier 32, there are 8 acres of platforms that are allowed in the Hudson River. You can see barely the pile fields. We left them there so they would be pier banked, if you will. So you don't have to get new Army Corps permits to build this pier. It's there, so we're rebuilding the pier. Same thing with Pier 42 in the Village and Pier 49 at Bank Street, and Pier 72 up in Chelsea. There's an opportunity to advocate for a new Pier 32, which would add another 2 acres of public open space to Community Board 1. So I just wanted to use the opportunity to seed the field, if you will, for the future. Next. You got a beautiful place down there. Everybody seems to enjoy it. Next. The views are spectacular. They should stay this way. And they can stay this way if we all work together and ask the governor and the mayor to take a rational approach to this project, because we all want to protect. Next. That's what we want to protect. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. And look forward to your questions if you have any.
Oh, Tom, that was stellar. I cannot thank you enough, personally and behalf of the board. It's really an extraordinary presentation, which I hope everyone can now, thanks to YouTube, listen to. So, yeah, I see Wendy clapping. That's really incredible. And I did not know about Pier 32. So let's open it up for question answer. I assume folks might have some. This is an incredible resource we have with us tonight with Tom. So, and I know you'll be open to questions that may not happen tonight, but I just want to add one thing that I'd like to throw out to our committee, the idea of actually supporting a resolution for this task force. Actually, we don't have one yet specifically from Board One. So I don't know if I can get a second on that, if anyone has thoughts, but we could handle that later under new business. But just want to identify that as something for consideration.
It would be very helpful in community board too, is doing something similar.
Okay, Lucian, am I allowed to do that in the format I've just done? Is that, as we say, kosher to?
I second.
I think so. You could move to do a resolution based on this presentation. Yeah, we'll talk about it more if you want. You have quorum, by the way.
Okay, great. Well, great. So I have a second. So I'm so moved. Okay. All right. Questions. I see Laura Starr. Right, Laura, we can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, it's muted. Tom, that was a really inspiring presentation from the beginning to end.
Coming from you, it's quite a compliment.
And it's great to see. Where were you thinking that the sewage pipe would go? Would it go like under the park or under the road?
It would be linear behind the bulkhead, under the park. It could be under the bicycle path, under an expanded bicycle path. That would allow access. For DEP, they have to go down and do whatever they have to do occasionally to manage the facility. But I was even told, Al Appleton was the commissioner of DEP back in the day, and I was told by he and the chief engineer that they could actually, if they got close to the bulkhead, they could pay to help stabilize the bulkhead. So that's why we had 15 million in our budget for the bulkhead. I was trying to get them to go as close to the bulkhead as they could.
So, one thing is like, well, first of all, I applaud the idea of this task force, definitely. We studied this area. We were the landscape architects on the Big U team. And, we were hoping to do the flood protection down the median, but there's evidently a combined sewer there. And I'm just like in this task force, I'm thinking if you could look at all of the infrastructure under 9A as well as the roadway width and what all the lanes are for. It's obviously way too wide and we don't need a parking lane and all of that. But I think the whole thing needs to be rethought, as you said, in order to get the proper stormwater infrastructure in and the flood protection infrastructure. So I really applaud that. And I just want to say that right now the Battery Park City Authority is jumping the gun and proposing to put a wall at the southern end of Hudson River Park, which I think would be a disaster for the rest of the park and set a bad precedent. So I'm hoping, that within this long range planning, there can be some short range thinking about that situation near Stuyvesant.
Well, if those of us who believe that Battery Park City doesn't have any jurisdiction in Hudson River Park, since it's not their property, we may probably see. I can't speak because in my day I would go up against anybody for the park, but the park is a city-state entity and they're beholden to principles that are not necessarily as willing to allow the staff to exercise their own passions about the park. So I can't judge today's world, but in my world, it's not your property. You really have to get our permission, and to get our permission, you'll have to do it in a more coordinated fashion. That's the only thing I would say.
We as community, we really want to fight this, and we really want to not have that wall anywhere in Hudson River Park. And so, however we can help you, I just want you to know we're here, and I haven't called Noreen yet at Hudson River Park, but whatever we can do, I am really determined So just tell us what to do.
Well, start the task force. I'm a little long in the tooth here. I've been doing this for 40 years. Next year, my book will be coming out. I'm looking to, my wife would love my time. I'd like to be on my motorcycle and playing my guitar more often.
Ah,
And I live in
Not yet.
I live in Breezy Point, not on Bank Street like I used to. So I'm here as a resource, but it's your watch, kids. I mean,
okay, I
it's
get it.
time. It's time for the new generation of people who know much better than I know the tools. You know the current players. You know the current situation. I can help with advice on financing and politics, and the press is critically important. And you guys have seemed to be doing that. Getting Dan Goldman involved has been very helpful as well. You got to kick this up the ladder. I mean, the East River Park got screwed, excuse me, just by people coming in by fiat and running all over them. We can't allow that to happen here.
Here,
And I'm sure you won't.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say one more thing, and this is not on the agenda for tonight, but like the idea of DDC becoming an authority, we're just going to get more of this. So the community board, like we have to get, we have to go to the Tom Fox School of Activism is all I want to say. Thank you.
Take
Thanks
it
a
to the
lot, Laura.
streets.
That's okay, great. Wendy Chapman.
Yeah, thank you for an amazing presentation and history. And, you know, since we all live in the neighborhood, many of us have been in the water when the combined sewer overflow has just, you know, unloaded a day or two before. And, you know, there's nothing worse than kayaking and we see what's floating beside us. There's been many days that it's been horrifying by multiple rats and that type of thing. So I'm very interested in learning more about the combined sewer overflow and that whole angle of it. It would be incredible. And just thank you for creating the park that, quite frankly, my children enjoyed. You know, we lived through a lot of the construction in the early days, but you know, it's a real gift. I'm curious now because, you know, resiliency right now, you know, Hurricane Sandy was 10 years ago and it was, you know, very devastating. And, you know, as a community board, we've been trying to engage Hudson River Park and, you know, many times. And the answer has always been like, well, listen, that's not something we want to talk about. That's going to be the Army Corps' decision. And, you know, I mean, the Hudson River Park Trust hasn't been engaged because, quite frankly, they say they don't have the money or the authority to do that. And what you're proposing right now is something that, you know, every time, I mean, Laura Starr has brought up a million times to bring the resiliency into the road. And we just hear no, 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 no. So, you know, I'd like to believe that all of this new redesign is possible, but I'm also a person who's like, you know what, we could get nothing. And, you know, and what you're saying is that, you know, you won some battles, you lost some battles, you know, I'm worried about the getting nothing type of thing. I don't feel the leadership right now from the mayor or the governor on this issue.
I never go into a fight expecting to lose. I did 2 tours in Vietnam and grew up in the streets of Brooklyn to repossess cars after I got out of the service. You need to be aggressive. You need to take it to the top. The trust isn't the trust. The trust has 9 board members, 11 now board members. You need to go to the commissioners that you know. You need to go to the mayor. You need to go to the governor. You need to go to the press. You need to take it to the streets. You need to have demonstrations. I mean, you saw thousands of people out on Pier 45. I know this is a different world and people are not as engaged.
It is a very different world. And,
yes.
And I will just tell you, as kids with teens, you know, they are very, very worried about what we're not doing right now. And it's complicated. And you're not going to have the same rallies like we had before. I mean, certainly, I mean, if you look at how many people showed up for when Greta came to town, we were all there. But I just think that this is, I am really nervous about getting nothing or just kicking the can down the road. So I'd love some more advice on that front. And it really has to be, to your point, I understand who the decision makers are. I just think it's a very different world.
Okay, I think it's good to be nervous. And I think that your cognitive tools, I have no idea how to use, from social media to other tools that were unavailable to people like us back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. You have to think creatively, you have to think positively, you have to be worried, but if you let it paralyze you with fear, you'll never get anywhere. You just got to move forward.
Trust me, I've saved
All
the
right.
school. I understand.
Okay.
I
Okay.
understand grassroots
Thanks.
movements.
Thanks.
That's all I can say.
But I was to say, so I'm not afraid. I just wanted to hear, you know, in terms of this task force, hopefully will be something real. Thank you so
Well,
much. And the
but
presentation was great.
you have also other allies in your area. There are people who've invested heavily. Disney, for example, in Hudson Yards, or Google, for example. There are people with louder voices, perhaps, than we, who could. I'm seeing this again. A lot of people have a big interest in what happens on the West Side, and a lot of people have billions of dollars on the line across the street, and they're building crosswalks into the park. To what? Go into a wall? So I believe that you have many more assets than people like us did 30 years ago, and you always have the courts. Make friends with your judges and your lawyers. You may need them. Because if politics doesn't work, you got to hit them with a hammer. Excuse me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that was quite a message, like that one. Okay, Richard Corman.
Hey, Richard.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Here I am. So I don't have a question, but I have one or two things I want to say, some of which have already been said. First of all, thank you for what you've done for the park and for all of us here in this community. It's really, looking at this presentation demonstrates that in fact it's a miracle what we have here. It's a miracle from where it was to what we have now. And I think the presentation that you've made for us today is actually one of the tools that we have in our quiver here, because people need to understand that things can be changed, things can be done, and miracles like this can actually happen if you really put your mind to it, put your shoulders to it.
And we made it happen. We made it happen. They didn't do it on purpose. We made them do it. Excuse me.
Exactly the point, Tom. You did that. You and the people around you did that. And this is now for us to do something that is not just to prevent the wall. I think the other thing that's really important, that's a message here, is that this has to do with not only protection for resiliency, but it has to do with quality of life. It has to do with the sustainability of our environment for the next 100 years and beyond. The combined sewage overflows, the protection of the marine sanctuary, all of this is connected. This is not just
Right.
one issue. That's why you've got all of those dollar sources in there, which are also critically important. I think this presentation needs to be shown to everyone so that people can see where you can get to if you really, really want to do it and you have people with you to do it. And so, Tom, thank you for the 40 years. Thank you for this presentation. And I'm afraid you may not be riding your bike quite as much as you want because you're going to be part of this.
Just as an advisor.
Thank you, Richard. Well put.
Thank you very much, Richard. I appreciate your kindness
And
your role in all of this.
indeed. Diane Lapson. Hi. Lucian, are you gonna? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Hi, Diane. Go ahead.
What a wonderful presentation that was, Tom. And I was one of the people. I moved down here in 1974.
Oh,
I was at all, if I didn't want to go to a demonstration, I was forced into it. So I was at all, those pictures were unbelievable to see because I remember those moments. Just to make it brief, I'm the president of the Independence Plaza Tenant Association. And we were never contacted, either the building owners, managers, or the tenant association was never contacted by Battery Park. And the next thing we knew, I had to tell my building manager that they were planning on building walls all around our complex that were very close to the building, and they never even approached the owners. And so I found out that the owners of Independence Plaza reached out without realizing that there was already plans in the works, or hopeful plans. And now Battery Park City Authority, or whatever their resiliency title is, they're going to give a presentation to the owners, and the tenant association will be part of it. Whatever you said today is something that I need to now explain to the owners, because I think we were just going to sit there and listen to what Battery Park City Authority was telling us as if it was already a done deal. So do you have any other place where I could read all of this information that you've just, I took screenshots of everything you said, but
I wrote an article in the Village Sun. Lincoln Anderson was kind enough to let me shoot my mouth
Okay.
off. So it lists all of these things and gives the examples more in depth, and it's
Okay.
available online at the Village Sun's website. It's a little dated now. I think I wrote it 2 or 3 weeks ago,
okay, that's
but
fantastic.
it's a good overview, and I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be very helpful, because I need to explain to them that there's a very important chance that we're going to try to change these plans. We are going to try to change the plans, and I certainly want to be involved. If I'll find out from the community board how I can.
But we need their help too. We need the owners' help. This
Yeah,
is in their interest.
exactly.
So
And
this
they,
is
I mean, they were a little shocked when they saw the pictures that are online from Battery Park City Authority, where there's red walls. All, I mean, they made them red so they'd stand out, all on North Moore Street, or Nathaniel Moore Street, actually, it's called. Without ever asking the owners, do you mind that we're building a wall right next to your buildings? Lots of little walls. So I think they're going to be a little relieved, but I don't think they understand that this is not something that's already, they didn't even understand how Battery Park City Authority got the approval to do things like this. And I had no idea either, because
there's another fellow. I'm sure they're members of the Real Estate Board of New York, because they own
right.
real estate in New York. One would think that a number of the real estate developers and owners along the West Side would be interested, and if they hear from one of their colleagues that there's both a problem and an opportunity, maybe they could begin to open that door to get that group of people more involved. Like I
yeah.
said, many hands make light work, and instead of having them complain, give them a job to do. Excuse me.
I will be the first time we actually work together on something.
There you go.
Instead of suing each other.
Diane, you raised a really good point, and I know we had followed that. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that Board One co-hosted with our congressman this public meeting last week, which was on this very theme. And the sort of takeaway by Goldman, which I really applaud, is his support, and pretty energetically, for this task force and for having all of the different agencies in the same room. And he repeated it numerous times. And I think that's something that we really, as a board, are working towards, so that the Battery Park City Authority is in the same room with the Army Corps and all the city agencies in the creation of this task force that's looking at this particular area, as well as all the others. So I just want to let you know that it's something that I don't know if there's any summary of it, but it was a very important meeting.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to chime in. We have to have the state agencies there, or we're going to get screwed.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
of course. I don't know what you're chiming. Yeah, no, of course, state DOT and DEC. Yes, of course.
And parks, state parks.
Yeah, no, yes, I should say all state, city, and federal agencies and players that deal with the waterfront of New York City. How about that?
Good.
So, yeah, that was certainly driven home at that meeting.
Well, I just want to say
Perhaps-
thank you
If
very
I can
much.
just,
again.
I'm going to just call on people people, thanks. I just
Okay,
want
I
to
wanna
mention
say-
also that I will be sending to everybody the YouTube of this meeting, the deck that will be provided by Tom, and the Village Sun articles, so you all have the sort of basics on that, okay? Sorry.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Do
especially
send
having-
that to Goldman too.
Go
Send it
ahead,
to
Tom,
Dan
sorry.
Goldman.
Tom, say it again, I'm sorry.
I said, send the presentation to Dan Goldman and suggest that he support this idea of the task force.
Well, that's what I've just said.
Oh,
I'm sorry
okay.
if I wasn't
All right.
clear. He had a whole public hearing last week.
Okay,
Tom
I
will
went
be-
to get water, sorry.
That's okay. Well, then you missed a critical point. We've got our congressman in
Okay.
total support
Yes,
of the
no, I-
task force and in total support of getting everybody in the same room. And he seems to be willing and able to do follow through on this. So that's, I think, very good news that I'm happy to,
Very
that we'll
good.
be pursuing. Anybody else have a question for Tom?
Alice, I just wanted to say that as soon as this is uploaded to YouTube, I'll be sending the whole package to Goldman's office, and I'll call to follow up as well.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
they
Thank
have
you.
the whole history, because this is great. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah,
Welcome,
Tom,
welcome.
this is the beginning of a long relationship with Community Board One. You've really opened up a can of worms for yourself. I agree with Richard Corman. There is no way you're going to be biking anywhere near
I go back to
or fishing.
a competitive relationship with Ann Compaccia.
But one thing that
Community
would be
Board
really,
One, so I've been around the block with one, and you guys are great, by the way.
well, you guys, you're terrific. And I will just ask for follow through that if you can identify specific people that you might know that you would like to see included on the task force, if we can we really want to start to formulate, suggestions of who these people might be, it would be really helpful, just rather than just looking at this kind of global agency involvement, but specific individuals that you might think would be really helpful here. That would be great.
The
as a next
regional
step.
director of state DOT appeared at our advisory council meeting, heard the micromobility, just that one particular issue, and didn't say no. He said it's not going to happen right away. So that, again, if you listen well, you can hear not hearing no is always a good answer. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity, and break a leg, guys.
Thank you so much, Tom. We'll be in touch. Thanks. Really
You're welcome.
fantastic presentation. Okay. That was really stellar. All right. I'm sorry to Larry Katz from the New York City Accelerator. I'm going to quickly introduce you, Larry. Thanks for your patience. So yes, Larry Katz is an engineer with New York City Accelerator, which is the important city resource that provides free training and guidance to help building owners improve their building's energy efficiency and reduce carbon emissions to meet the requirements of Local Law 97. Those of you need a reminder, Local Law 97 was passed under the de Blasio Green New Deal in 2019 to reduce emissions produced by the city's largest buildings, 40% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. I know there's amendments to this law, so maybe I don't have that specifically correct, but I think it's pretty close. So Larry is going to speak to us in ways we can be on target for complying sooner than later, because there are fines afoot as soon as the year 2025 for buildings over 25,000 square feet. So thank you very much for coming, Larry.
Alice, it's a pleasure. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am happy to have agreed to be here with you all tonight and to talk about Local Law 97. What I wasn't aware of is that I would have to follow one of the great speakers that I have heard in recent years, Tom Fox. And so let me set expectations. I'm going to talk without pictures, because unlike Tom, who could show pictures of the before and after to what are beautiful waterfronts that should be cherished, a lot of the work we do is in the boiler room of large multifamily and commercial buildings. But there is a connection for the outdoors as well. The work we started actually before the accelerator 10 years ago was with a program called Clean Heat. It was to eliminate number 6 fuel oil by 2015. And while that was a knock against the heating fuel oil business, it did produce the cleanest air New York City had seen in over 50 years. And we're just as passionate about reducing emissions to help fight climate change. And Local Law 97 helps to do that. So I'll do the whole next slide, please. And I only have a few, but hopefully I'll give you a good feel for what we do and how we can help. So the accelerator does give free guidance. I'm one of 25 to 30 people on a staff that works with building stakeholders to identify energy efficiency measures and improvements to reduce both energy costs as well as carbon emissions. We provide training, we do long-term plans, which is one of the things I work on most as the technical lead on the program. This would help to not only do near-term measures to help meet the local laws and reduce energy costs near term, but for long-term planning for a low carbon solution and low carbon operation in the years to come. We also have financing opportunities and connect people with financial incentives through the utilities to help to pay for part of the cost of these upgrades. Next slide. So as you may be, as you know, or may know, Local Law 97 applies to market rate buildings that are greater than 25,000 square feet. The graphic on the right is basically saying that we're going to target lowering emissions more and more in multi-year chunks compared to 2005 levels. So there are going to be implemented under Local Law 97, essentially carbon emission caps based on your building, which I'll go into in a minute, with lower and lower limits in 2030 and then 2035 and then beyond. And if you click again, please. You also may know about 75 to 80% of properties that are subject to the law meet the requirements until 2030. So in other words, zero penalties for their current carbon emission levels. But only 25 to 30% of buildings will meet these levels starting in 2030. So really poor performing buildings really need to work at this near term as well as long term, but there's that much more pressure to avoid penalties. Next, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what compliance means and how it works. And there are two main elements for calculating where a building stands for Local Law 97. One of them is to calculate the carbon limit for that building, and it's based on gross floor area, square feet, and how the property is used, what type of property it is. If you click, please. So different types of buildings have different allotted amounts of emissions per square foot allowed. And the best example is to say that a non-refrigerated storage space should use a lot less energy and therefore only have a certain lower cap for emissions than, say, a hospital, which is quite energy intensive, of course. So that's one factor. Then the other thing is that we need to calculate the actual emissions based on annual energy use. And tons of carbon equivalent are calculated based on how much of different energy is used in the building, whether it's fuel oil or natural gas or electricity or district steam. Click, please. And the first year that energy will be collected and used to calculate emissions levels will be the energy year in calendar year 2024. And that would be filed by May 1st of 2025 by a registered design professional. And then every subsequent year for the previous year by May 1st. Next, please. So I'm going to do an example of a market rate building, and hopefully this can put it all together for what this really means, because one of the things that people immediately are taken aback by is that while they know there's a charge for electricity and they know there's a charge for, say, natural gas use, and there's a bill that comes every month and from the utility, and there's an amount of usage, how it all relates to carbon emissions. Well, it's just math, but I wouldn't expect people to naturally know what carbon relates to, how it relates to energy. So if you click, please, let's take an example where there's a multifamily building that's 100,000 square feet. Just by the math, calculating the carbon limit, the building has up to 675 tons of CO2 that is their emissions limit. Click, please. Now, this same building has electricity and gas use, and these are annual numbers, and their total emissions based on this energy use is 727 tons. And so right now, in 2024, if nothing was to change, when they file in 2025 by May 1st, there'll be a penalty of just under $14,000. It's $268 per ton over the limit. So they're over the limit by 727 minus 675, which is 52. Okay, so all this
How'd you
math
get
is
to
behind.
675? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Ask that question. How'd you get to 675 tons, the number on the left?
Sure, right. Well, the allotment per square foot is 0.0675 tons per CO2e for a multifamily building. So if you multiply 100,000 square feet times 0.0675 tons per square foot, you get 675 tons. And what's important is that these calculations are easy to find, already done for you on a tool that we have and even other entities have, where you can put in a building address and it will give you a status, a snapshot of what the energy use is and what the penalty is estimated to be starting in 2024, as well as starting in 2030. So the calculations, like I said, it's all math. It should be done for you. We're not expecting non-engineers and non-energy industry people to be able to or want to do this. We're here to help do this for you. And the question now is, well, here's a building that has a penalty. So what can we do about it? And if you click, thanks, Lucian. Here are example energy projects, some of which start in the boiler room. But if, for example, a building could balance their steam distribution system, and we estimate maybe 4% savings, upgrade their boiler controls for another 4% savings, do a lighting project in both the stairwells as well as the laundry room, and you have these estimated savings, which are reasonable and conservative. And if you click once more, you'll see that from our calculations, we estimate energy savings to be a little over $17,000 per year, which is great. But because we're also reducing emissions, the penalty for 2024 has been eliminated. So the total savings, if you include penalty reduction, is over $30,000 per year. So in a nutshell, this is what our program does. We look for ways buildings can do low cost, reasonable payback measures to bring down their energy use and to eliminate the penalties. Now, the penalties are there as kind of a reverse incentive to say, look, we need to take action. We need to protect the environment. We need the city buildings that are the biggest cause of emissions in the city, from mostly from burning fossil fuels for heat. We need incentives for people to take action, reduce their energy costs, and eliminate this penalty. And we're here to help do that. As I mentioned also, after doing these type of measures, as older infrastructure ages, we're looking for ways to replace old fossil fuel burning systems with electric-based systems. Now, for a lot of buildings, that's not easy. But even if we do a slow phased-in migration to do that, we're going to eliminate huge tons of emissions for the betterment of the city and the environment overall. I'd like to just leave this slide up, and this completes my presentation. I'd love to take questions and see how I can help in other ways.
Larry, thanks very much. That was excellent. We do have questions here, so I start with Justine Kucha.
Thank you so much. And Alice, thank you. I'm sorry I blurted out my question, but I was hoping it would be an easy answer, and it was. So thank you for that.
That's quite all right.
I know it's not protocol or decorum to interrupt, but I was like losing my mind. Thank you. This is great, Larry. 2 questions. So you're a private company, right? That's out there, and your services are available to any individual building that reaches out to you?
Right. So we're hired,
Okay.
contracted by the city of New York.
Oh, okay.
We're overseen by the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. And
Okay.
so being funded by the city means we are a neutral provider of energy advice and guidance without taking any work away from the industry players in the New York City marketplace. So we don't do audits, we don't do filings on behalf of anyone, we don't do engineering work, but what we do is say to non-technical, non-energy aware people, here's where you start, here are resources you can contact. And if you already have people you can contact, whether it's a lighting firm or a boiler contractor or mechanical engineering firm, that's great. Use whoever you want. But what we want to do is lay out a plan for them to say, here's how you get from A to B, reduce energy use, carbon emissions, and exposure to local Law 97 fines.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is something that I will say, a Battery Park City resident, part of the Homeowners Coalition of condominiums in Battery Park City. We've been asking for something this specific and this helpful from the Battery Park City Authority. Just you are the resource to go to get the information per building. So the boards of each building and the management companies of each building can give a call, get an appointment with you. You can help them figure out what the deal is, and then it's up to them to solve the problem themselves. But you're giving them the template, right?
Yeah, that's really well put. Very, very, very solid. Yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, the community board could never host somebody who was a not-for-profit. So I should have made that clear. This is part of the city MOCEJ program. Yeah, it is.
Thank you so much, Alice, for that. Yeah, I just didn't know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, good, very good question.
I'm glad you asked.
And also, additionally, a good question as to how we arrived at the 0.0675 number. Yeah. Okay, Richard Corman.
Yeah, thanks. This is really very helpful. Something I've been concerned about. Obviously, I live in a co-op building as well. So I have several questions. First, outside of this, is there any relationship to what all this is and the letter that we have pasted on our doors at this point?
Oh, that's an excellent question. It is related. Energy use and reducing energy use does help get a better letter grade. But the way letter grades are calculated is based on a system in which your building and adjusted for weather in region is compared to operation of buildings like yours across the country that also have energy use and operation. And so it's sort of a gross average to say what your score from 1 to 100 is, and the city has decided that a score of 85 or better is an A, and 70 or better is a B, and so on, C and D, and needs more information. So working toward energy efficiency, yes, can certainly help the letter grade, but they're not always related exactly, and emissions levels are not always related to the letter grade either.
Well, does the what use or what purpose is the letter grade in relation? I mean, there's a pretty clear purpose here. What purpose does the letter grade serve?
The intention of the letter grade was to give an idea to people who may look at a facility to say how energy efficient it is, and therefore what type of maintenance costs or operating costs there might be. That's the intention. Just like if you went to a restaurant and the health department rated it a D minus, you might question going into the restaurant. Well, this isn't as drastic, but the idea is to get people motivated to say, well, I'd like to see what we can do to improve our building's energy footprint and lower carbon emissions and lower our operating costs.
Oh, yeah, I think an annual penalty number would be a pretty good incentive in and of itself.
I agree with you,
Right.
Richard.
But let me go to the chart and my questions on that. So Justine asked about the number on the left. I want to ask about the number on the right, the 727.
Okay.
Now, is that number, you said that number can be found for your building on a particular website somewhere, is that correct?
Well, actually, we have on our website on NYC, on the accelerator.nyc website, we have on the landing page a space where you can type in a building address. And as you type it in, the system will find the address and you click on it and it will give you a snapshot of the building, which includes some basic building information as well as estimated local law 97 penalties. So it won't give you the exact number of tons of carbon, but it's already done that calculation to give you an idea of what penalties are estimated conservatively, meaning that we've taken a higher usage year over the past few and used that as the basis to calculate a penalty. It's a snapshot to give building stakeholders an idea of where they stand.
Okay, so in that penalty and in this, hidden 727, does that is that just the building use, or is that that include every resident in that building as well and their use?
It includes every resident as well and their use. Yes, that's correct. And that number for this example, and it's an accurate number, I did the calculation, it's with a building that has that much electricity use, to which there's a certain amount of emissions associated with that, as well as natural gas use, and that has a certain emission value associated with that.
Okay, and the website was accelerator.nyc.
Yeah, in fact, if Lucian wants to, if you can bring up accelerator.nyc.
Sure, one second.
Or drop it in the chat.
Yeah, also drop the
Oh,
So
I
you
was
can
going to
add-
suggest just to bring it up on the screen and we can put in a building address and you can see exactly what I'm saying, what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's great.
If it's not too difficult, Lucian.
Or not too frightening.
Wow, that's perfect. And if you just scroll down a little bit, you see look up your building. So if you start typing in a building address,
Who wants to go?
See,
Go
no
ahead,
building
Richard,
wants
you
to
already
do that
seem very
one.
ambitiously doing what you were, go, what you said.
Put up
All right,
privately first.
let's do my building.
All right, go ahead.
335 Greenwich Street.
there it is. And search now. And this is what comes up. So we have the building block lot number, the total square feet that was submitted with the benchmarking filing, meaning the annual energy use filing. And based on the energy year that we use, which is just above, we project 0 penalty until 2030. And at 2030, we project a penalty of about $28,700 per year. So the good news is there are 6 years or so to find and identify ways to reduce energy use and consumption, and therefore emissions, and therefore reduce, or obviously best case is to work to eliminate that penalty.
And what does that mean, affordability status possible?
Right. There are buildings that can take a different pathway if they are designated as affordable housing. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
general category, and based on our data, which is usually 2 to 3 years old for what we are allowed to access, we say either no or it's possible that there could be a rent regulated unit in this building. It may be that it's 0 and that it's not possible, but we're unsure. We always clarify with building representation to see. So, for example, the co-op board would know, and we would say, we would ask to confirm.
Got it.
Helpful to have the
Okay.
example. Other questions from committee members? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Larry.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay, Diane Lapson from former member again. Lucian, you're unmuting. Yep. Oh, we seem to have lost Diane. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. Well, if perhaps she'll come back, we'll allow Joel Grayson to ask. Hi, Joel. Here we go.
Larry, I noticed that my building has a C energy efficiency rating, but on the report from Accelerator, there will be no penalty, including in 2030 and beyond. So my question is how, which I guess is related to Richard's question, which is how this penalty relates to energy efficiency rating. Because I was under the impression that my building had a lot of work to do, but it looks like we won't be penalized.
Well, there may be work to do and certainly ways to improve efficiency and reduce overall energy costs and operating costs. But yeah, just to, as I had said before, the emissions level in a building doesn't necessarily correlate exactly to the letter grade. And so there are buildings that have a B or an A rating, and they may actually have a fine coming up. But also buildings with a C or D rating may have little to no penalty. So it's not an exact science, given that it's basically two different rating methods, but with the same intention to try and see how well you can improve your building. And we're glad to help to talk about the building, the systems in the building, the age of the systems, the potential for renewable energy. I should say also, I wrote a note, the potential to perhaps do something with the roof if solar is not an option, where you can put in a green roof or what's called a blue roof to manage water runoff, which is partially funded by the DEP, which goes right to what Mr. Fox was saying about how when the storms overflow, it's an enormously bad issue. And this is one way we direct people to try and help with that as well.
Mhm. Right, so this is more of about absolute emissions than how efficient the building is.
That's a good way of putting it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Alice, I think Diane still has a comment. I can try to unmute her even though her hand's not up.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thanks, John.
Diane?
Hi, sorry, I didn't know what to do. Great presentation. My building now proudly has a sign outside that says code D on it. And people were walking by flipping out when they saw it. If it was a restaurant, we would have been closed. So I'm wondering, just to be able to inform people what it means. We are not a co-op, we're a rental. We used to be affordable housing. Now there's some of those tenants left, but now it's free market. I'd like to know where to get a great explanation to share with people who now want to know what this D represents for our complex. I know that we still have appliances that are maybe 40, 50 years old that are just energy wasters. And we at one point found a way to fund for our building to fund getting new appliances, but they were busy changing their steam system, their gas system at that time. So is there a way that I can get a good definition to put in a newsletter to educate everybody?
Right, I can work on that with you and or a colleague, but what I would most want to do, remember, we're completely free and we're not selling anything. We would more than happy to see, what is your building address? We could look up usage, we could look up status, we can talk about what systems are in the building and see where there can be improvements that can save energy and hopefully lift the energy grade as well. But I can also put something together to say this is how the energy grade is calculated and in basic ways, and you can convey that to fellow residents.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thanks, Larry. And Diane, anybody else got questions for Larry on the New York City Accelerator? I have one. Can you just, I'm very gray on a lot of these things, but in a sentence, can you just describe what I think a few people are asking about, which is just sort of the difference between local law, I guess it is 33, and its energy grade, right? Because that's where energy grade is, right? And then you have the local law 97, which is where this compliance is. So can you just give us something we can?
Yeah. In summary, each of the local laws is to encourage greater energy efficiency, to reduce carbon emissions for the betterment of the environment, and to fight climate change. The emissions are straight calculations based on energy use in the building. Every time the boiler goes on or a electric heater goes on, or when the refrigerator's running, it's using energy, and that contributes to the calculation for emissions. The energy grade is based on a system from a Department of Energy system called Energy Star. Now, you might be familiar with Energy Star because appliances are rated Energy Star as being energy efficient. Well, Energy Star rates buildings as well. And through their database of collecting all kinds of information about buildings, they get an idea of what the mid-range is for a building and who's better and who's below. And it's on a scale of 1 to 100. So you could be in a particular multifamily building in New York City where the weather is adjusted to properly compare it to, say, a building in Houston, Texas, that's also around the same age, that has about the same amount of square feet. And you look at the energy use, and Energy Star does this calculation to give a number score. And the city adapted this system to assign letter grades based on the Energy Star score. So a score of, like I said, a score of 87 is an A, a score of 73 is a B. Below 70 is a C, I think, to 60, and below 60, I think, is a D, or below 50, it's a D. But your improvements for the energy grade are actually against a standard that's national. But the improvements can be simple enough to say, put in occupancy sensors in the laundry room so the lights aren't on all the time. And convert those lights from the long fluorescent tubes to efficient LED lights that use less than half the power. So that's where we're trying to direct people initially, and then say your boiler's going to be end of life in about 5 years. As it is, you're spending a lot on maintenance. Here are some other opportunities to consider. And there's also funding to even study what would be best for your building. If you're interested, we can direct you to those resources.
Does the city thank you, that's helpful. Does the city consider that this local law 33 Energy Star rating is a very valuable tool, or is it something that would be phased out because of the fact that it certainly has certain built-in redundancies with 97 or not?
Oh, it's another wonderful question. There might be something under consideration. I know that, just from a get people to be aware and seek guidance, they both serve a purpose. But, the fact that they don't necessarily correlate, it's hard to say what they may or may not do. But one, obviously, there are financial incentives to improve, so there's no penalty, there's no fine, and the other is more of a cosmetic. But there's a building in the Upper East Side that I visited, talked with the maintenance building operator and his staff. It's a very efficient building in that they are as efficient as possible. But if people in this Upper East Side building leave the air conditioning on when they're away for 2 weeks on vacation, there's nothing that the building operator can do except say, hey, you know why there's a D in the front? Because we need to be better at managing temperature and lighting use and etc. So that's where maybe there's some incentives from that standpoint to get people to act.
I got it. It's a little like grade versus pass fail. Okay. One other question, I was very interested to know, does the city, do you know, this is a little off, I guess, what you do, but is there any benchmark for, it comes up a lot, the sort of idea of reusing existing buildings versus demolishing them? Is there any level of looking at reviewing the carbon emissions of one versus the other? I know other cities in the world do that, but does New York do it in any way that's followable that you're aware of? And if you know, who would be the right department to talk to us about that?
I'm not aware of how they look at the carbon impact of demolishing an existing building. There's certainly work going on for embedded carbon and the costs of materials and transportation to build a new building. But the city does expect 80% of buildings that are standing today to be standing in 2050. And that's why the investments in these buildings is critical for reducing carbon emissions. Can I ask the reason for your question, or what you're maybe relating
Well,
it
I
to?
think it came up specifically in Lower Manhattan in our community board with the consideration of demolishing an existing building, which happens to be the Manhattan Detention Center, a jail on Center Street. And the idea to build, not to reuse it, but rather to rebuild something that I think is to the tune now of over, I don't remember now, but it's a program that's looking at about a $12 billion bill for 4 new buildings. And so, a lot of people believe that the reuse and alteration of an existing structure, whatever it might be, is a far better use of money, and particularly in terms of sustainability goals of the city, than to build a new one. And this isn't the only place it'll come up, but that's what triggers my own question about it.
Right. Yeah, it's good question. Again, it's not something that we look at from the standpoint of, the quality of the existing structure, the ability to reuse, the safety, and all those aspects. We do assist with new construction in working to model and promote use of high efficiency equipment that can maybe be a far better investment up front than to potentially add something later. So have it be low carbon today and low carbon in 30 years, considering you're building it today.
Right. Well, that's certainly very valuable, as is, I think, hopefully someday reviewing what you have as a public building and making sure that it can't be reused. Well, I've exhausted my questions. Anybody else? It looks like you are done, Larry. I cannot thank you enough for your help. I encourage everybody who's attending tonight to spread the word about the New York City Accelerator Program, because it is an incredible resource that you can actually have somebody like we saw tonight with Richard's building help figure out what's in store if you have a building that's over 25,000 square feet. So that's very helpful. And I suspect you'd help people with buildings that are under 25,000 square feet. We haven't spoken at all about the financing, and you mentioned that. That's always a huge question, as to exactly how someone affords to do any of these.
Right,
But
right. We do have a financing expert on the team. He works with different financial entities to identify funding. So there's a recent campaign about financing that just came out from our program. So that's another thing that we can help with. We also have solar expertise to do an initial assessment, again, free of charge, just to see feasibility for a building's roof. And, some are too small, too tall, and too shaded, and it's obvious that solar is not an option. But today there's multiple reasons, with tax incentives, with energy savings, with carbon emission reduction and offset, to consider solar. And we have a team that works on the initial stages at no cost to a stakeholder, to a building stakeholder.
wow, very interesting. Brave new world. Okay, thank you. All right, well.
One more question, if I could.
Go ahead, sorry, yep.
Yes.
Sure.
So you mentioned solar on rooftop. Is there, what about wind?
There is,
Because I know that there are these new small turbine wind generators. I don't know much more about them, but I know that they exist.
yeah, it's actually something I've looked into. We may even be talking or referring to the same company. I happen to know there's a company that's come out with some really interesting technology that is being trialed in New York City um, by a leading real estate entity, and it's clearly on the radar. Uh, we're looking at, I'm looking in particular at different new technology to introduce um, and to help with the longer term planning aspects, because people say, well, how can I possibly, change my 100-year-old building? Well, you may not be able to, but there could be ways of doing things that, just 5 years ago, no one was thinking of. And so I'm hoping to do a couple more webinars on that, and I'll be glad to send information to CB1 and everyone else to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's great. I could say that on my block, Greenwich Street, there's enough wind to power, I would say, about half of New York City.
Yeah,
We could somehow
exactly. Lower
tap into it.
Manhattan, definitely.
In
Right.
Gateway too. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's why as much as we're looking at, these near-term measures that all need to be done. I mean, the fact that there might be a light fixture in New York, and of course I'm exaggerating, there are tons of light fixtures in New York that are still not LED. We need to make all that happen, as well as look for how we can do small wind turbine electric generation. Even if you put a couple on the roof and you power certain fans, the exhaust fans, and some of the common area lighting, it makes an enormous difference to do this across New York City. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, we're clearly interested in trying to bring those opportunities to New York City buildings.
Yeah, great point. Okay, any other last minute thoughts? Lucian, do you want to, this is very dear to your heart. Anything else? Okay.
Yeah, I think this is all really great information. One additional area of interest that I've heard is power storage. For not just buying power at non-peak times and using it during peak times, but also to supplement renewable energy production using rooftop. But there's also a certain number of facilities in our district that rely on enormous backup diesel generators, and I know there's a lot of there'll be a well of support to replace filthy, loud, vibrating diesel generators with power banks to whatever degree that's possible, given kind of how critical the backup generators are. But the more progress the city and the fire department and the DOB makes on making those normalized and scalable, there's some really big implications for Lower Manhattan for those as well.
Absolutely. And I think all New Yorkers share the enormous respect for the New York City Fire Department, obviously, but there needs to be ways to safely implement battery storage in more and more places, and it's continuously being looked at and reviewed at multiple levels. I wish I had, a plan to say this capacity battery can go in this type of basement or in this type of courtyard with these types of safety measures.
Something
Thanks.
for us to talk about in the future, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a good point, Lucian. Okay, Colin, you've appeared. Good. Hi.
Yeah, I promise I'll be just 2 seconds. You guys wonder why I'm so interested in Governor's Island, because it's prime real estate for battery storage peaker plant availability for downtown. That's one reason why I complain about it all the time. The other thing is the only way you really can have a net zero generation ability in New York City is to support utility scale transmission from offshore wind off either Rhode Island or New York, and upstate New York. There aren't wind turbines powerful enough to power a single building, never mind a block. You're generally talking about 1.5 to 5 megawatt machines that even have close to the ability to power what we need here. And that's all offshore and terrestrial wind upstate. So it's really cool stuff. And same with solar. But Lucian's right. The best chance we have of any kind of net zero ability downtown is storage, is battery power. And again, that's why I like the idea of Governor's Island. But also FDNY is, as has been mentioned, opposed to lithium ion, which tend to explode in basements. So there's a lot of cool technologies, and Alice has asked me a number of times to bring some of the folks I work with in to talk about it. And there's lots of people who are doing really cool things, and I'm always happy to bring them in to walk you through it.
Yeah, it's great stuff. You work directly with people in that part of the industry?
As everyone on this call knows, I remind people very often, yes. I do.
Well, be good to connect with you, Colin. Be happy to
Yeah,
talk to you about that.
Okay, well, this is, yeah, we're not. Good. Okay, great. I'm glad you've made it to this meeting too, Colin. Thanks. Okay, Lucian, you've got your hand up. Nope, down. Okay.
I was just I heard that there's a peaker plant in Queens that's being converted to, I think, to some capacity of battery storage. I don't know if it's Ravenswood,
awesome.
but there's another one. I'm sorry?
No, that's awesome. Had we had
Yes,
batteries in Queens or Governor's Island during the blackout, there would not have been a blackout.
I think, and if there's any interest, in addition to some Colin's contacts, the former representative, the CB1 from EDC, Will Fisher, many of you probably remember Will, during the de Blasio administration, he now works for the company that's doing the conversion of the peaker plant, I think the battery storage. So I still have his contact information. We could bring him in as well if there's interest.
I would
that's
love
all
to
I
hear
got.
about that, because that really is cool stuff, and we should all know about the capabilities. And again, I don't mean to be a downer, but there just simply isn't a wind turbine that can power a building in New York. It just doesn't exist.
Okay, so that sounds like a good thing to consider for an agenda item for, extension on the conversation. So thanks to all. And a big thank you to Larry for coming. Really helpful to, I think that it's been a couple of years since we've had New York City Accelerator, and the time is indeed accelerating for getting this done in a lot of these buildings. So keep us posted as to what we really should know as a community. And thank you again.
You're more than welcome, and don't hesitate to reach out for your buildings and buildings in the district.
Excellent. Thanks again. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that was really another really interesting and helpful conversation, I hope, to everybody. Okay, we're moving on to our fourth item on the agenda, which are those principles that we've looked at a couple of times before. These are the waterfront resiliency planning principles. Thank you for those of you who read through them. I just want to make sure a couple of things are clear. This is, of course, a draft, and there are some things that will change on the draft. Just to be clear that the subject matter is not the environmental principles, but they are, in fact, the coastal resiliency principles. So it's a little bit different. We're not trying to set out principles on the entire environmental package of, Lower Manhattan. And so that would be the first sort of in the Ray, we'll change that. I don't know if you all had a copy, I think was sent to you, but I think, Lucian, you're going to put up the document, the draft, just so we can have something to guide us through. And the other thing I wanted to make sure was clear that wasn't made clear, frankly, by me here, is in the whereas where we're setting forth the goals and the guiding principles, we're missing is the identification of the actual document when it was written, which was 2021, when those agencies that are enumerated in the second whereas were part of this. But of course, the United States Army Corps was not part of that. And, a couple of people have pointed that out, but we're not necessarily looking to set up a task force to review the principles at this point. We're simply looking at principles that were written in 2021, which we've reviewed, and that document must be part of this. In other words, this is just a summary of a, I think, 40-page document. So these principles were very much fleshed out in that document, and I hope that everybody's read it, but that will be part of this resolution. So those 2 points I want to make clear. And then, so the third whereas is simply a list of exactly what is in that document. I mean, a summary rather. And then the last whereas, which Lucian cleverly thought through to say, what are our additional principles that we'd like to add in addition to the document that we're adopting? So that's where we're at. Open for discussion. Nothing at all cannot change. Even what I've just said could be, completely voided out. But that's where we left off at the last meeting a couple of months ago. So, so that's where we are. So, anybody? I think what we'll do before we open it up is let's just go through. Do we have, Lucian? Did you add the therefore be it resolved? Is okay. So I see under additional comments, these were comments that I think the first group is from Jeff Galloway, and thanks so much for doing that, Jeff. Excuse me. So if you want to just let's scroll and read together on public engagement. Okay, wait a second.
I'm also going to put a link in the chat for everyone who wants to just pull this file up on their own computer. You're free to do so, and look at it. So you don't have to be at my mercy for reading. And I have to actually add in some of the other comments. I have Jeff's here. I know there's some others as well, but others can drop theirs in the chat if I'm missing anything.
Okay. You know what, Lucian, if you don't mind, I think because some people aren't in front of the screen, can everybody read this? I'm not sure, but these ones that were just added, let me just read them out. I think that'll be best. So I think the comments and so applying, I think we're going to have to reword this a little bit, but I think the point about the sort of need for, well, I shouldn't put words into your mouth, Jeff. What are you trying to say in number one as a goal that you'd like to have worded, if you would be so good as to word it as according to what the
So, I mean, I shared these points as discussion points that were not necessarily written in resolution language. And rather than trying to draft on the fly, maybe we can get agreement or disagreement whether or not any or all of these points should be included in the resolution. I do. So the first point on public engagement is that I'm not sure what the resolution point is, but we've seen it in Wagner Park. We've seen it I know many of you have attended these REACH specific meetings for the Northwest Battery Park City Resiliency Project. And although there's a fair amount of attendance, I would be willing to guess that if you were to randomly walk down the street of Battery Park City or talk to anyone in any of the buildings, 95% of them would be completely unaware that anything is going on. So I think that we need to encourage the entities responsible for whatever the projects are, that they engage in outreach. But the point that I'm making here is that does not excuse us on the community board from basically trying to speak for the community. We need to engage ourselves on these projects because the reality is our communities are kind of depending on us to be the ones paying attention while they go about their day-to-day lives and hope we and the elected officials are doing the right things. I think Wendy's comments may have actually, I can't, Wendy made some follow-up comments to mine, and I don't know, I don't recall, Wendy, if you put the public engagement point into something that's resolution worthy. I know you've been a big fan of public engagement.
Jeff, this is a very important point. I just would ask that we are sure that that point hasn't already been fleshed out. I suspect not, because I know you dutifully read these documents in the guiding principle document, or sorry, the planning guidance document of the city. So I assume that point has, I know they talk about equitably addressing local neighborhood needs, and they do have a guiding principle 3, consult, engage, and communicate and partner with the public. We would have to open up the document, which I think we should do, just to make sure we're not just being redundant. There's
Well, that's an excellent point. And I mean, I think, as you point out, the document does indicate that a considerable level of engagement needs to be done. And as I started out saying, these comments were intended to be things that I thought we needed to engage on, not necessarily resolution worthy for adding in. And it may very well be that public engagement is addressed adequately in the document that we're supporting. But I would sort of once again refer to Wendy, since she's been very much a public engagement person, and I don't know if Wendy, you've been able to plow through the city's document and whether that subject is addressed well enough in there.
Well,
I apologize. I haven't read through the document, to Alice's point, but I think what we have seen is the way the city has engaged, it's not meeting the need.
Yes.
Right. Remember this, yes. So that's a good point, different point, but the guiding principles are just ways that the public can see what these principles are and be able to recognize, that there are principles that we're trying to follow. That we don't follow them is a very good point, but I'm not sure. Remember, this is just a document of guiding principles. So maybe, Lucian, maybe you can drop into the chat the document, the Neighborhood Coastal Flood Protection Project Planning Guidance, so that everybody can read the principles and make sure that it's what they want, and that if it's not, and I'll direct you to the pages so you can, and it's not that big a document, but it's on page 12 of the document. But I can read this one out loud actually, because it's actually not so long. So engaging, partnering, and sharing power and decision-making with local communities is critical to good planning and creating an equitable outcome. The engagement process is an opportunity to educate the public about climate risks and adaptation methods, while also learning from residents about the conditions in the neighborhood and their daily experiences with climate change. City government can play a unique role in partnering with residents to understand their vulnerabilities and strengths on climate issues and the vision they have for their neighborhoods. It is also critical to evaluate difficult trade-offs and understand the need to balance limited resources. Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Oh, I was looking away. That's really helpful. Okay, so there's your principle, and we can then amplify. I think that's one below it.
Speaking as the one who made that point that you've added to the resolution, I think this does in fact cover it pretty well. I mean, to Wendy's point, maybe it's not followed.
That's right. Well, that's a good point. All right. So yeah, I don't think we want to add to a document if it's already in there, because of course it just lengthens it so nobody even reads it. So I think, okay, so point one, it looks like we are agreeing it's covered, if I'm hearing the author of the point.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Point two, however, I don't think is covered in these principles, or at least not explicitly.
Yeah, that's a good, I don't remember that either being in there. So, okay. And I guess I'll just ask for a show of hands if someone feels strongly that these points should not be included. I do see hands up, but let's just let Jeff go through. If I could just ask the people raise their hands at this particular juncture if you do not agree with keeping this point in the document. So Sarah, you seem to have your hand up. You don't agree that a project's objective should be defined clearly on? We cannot hear you yet. Still.
Get my hand down.
Oh, you can't get your hand down. Oh, well. Now it would, okay.
Moment. Whole different moment. I agree with Jeff.
Okay, thanks a lot. And then we'll open it up for general comments, but just for now, let's just go down this line of Jeff's comments. And then okay. Sorry.
So on the third point, this became apparent. I mean, in attending these Battery Park City meetings, it really does become apparent that the rationale of the Northwest project is to essentially allow the parks to flood in a 100-year storm. And I'm not saying I disagree with that conclusion, because that may very well be the best thing. But the one thing that I found in speaking with some of the project team in these little group meetings during these REACH specific meetings is that it was not clear to me that they were focusing on what needed to be done to the park itself as part of the project to make sure that when it floods, you don't have it gone for a year or two while they rebuild it. So I think it needs to be clearly communicated and consciously part of the design and decision-making process, that for the areas that are going to be allowed to flood, that the flood impacts and the remediation needs should be identified, and also alternatives should be looked at that would avoid flooding. So anyway, didn't see that in the principles of the city principles at all. Is that we just need to consciously deal with what's going to be allowed to flood and what consequences may flow from that.
Okay. Any objections to that?
My hand's up. Can I add? Actually, no, I don't object to what's there, but I'm also going to worry about some sort of a cost benefit analysis, if that's the right way to say it, where there's a cost associated with creating flood barriers that will not allow the parks to flood, but there's also a cost associated with allowing the parks to flood, right? Whether, as Jeff pointed out, how long is it, they should be telling us how long is the anticipated downtime if it floods, and if they could even give us that information. But there's going to be maintenance costs associated with it all, and I think that we should address costs too.
It's an externality.
So
Yeah,
a guiding principle would be to provide a cost benefit analysis of
each alternative. Yeah, whatever they want to do. Because I think Jeff's right. This is not covered in the city area. And I do think in places the city is talking about letting places, like for example, even if they build that wall, they're going to allow parts of the Hudson River Park to flood. What is it going to cost to put it back to use? That's what I would suggest.
Okay, so the cost benefits, I think, seems a good idea. Okay, let's go back up to where are we on the list here? I think the next one, assumptions underlying design, I think that's been taken care of in number 1.
Well, maybe the new number, it's sort of in what I guess is 1, but it's actually 2 here. Those are really 2 different points, but they're related. One is, what are you trying to achieve from a resiliency perspective? That needs to be, people need to understand, is this going to protect against the 100-year storm? Is this protecting against sea level rise and tidal flooding? What are you trying to accomplish as your resiliency objective? Are you trying to protect against, heavy rainfall? There's lots of different risks, and we've seen it in the Lower Manhattan project. Some of them are to protect against some risks, some protecting against others. 4 is a different concept, which is, what are your underlying assumptions? What are the climate assumptions? What is your DFE? What is, you know, and fortunately, we've been able to tease a lot of this stuff out through many presentations. And to be fair, many of the presenters have offered this up without us actually asking for it. But I think it is a principle that should apply generally. I mean, I'd hate to see them stop doing that because you can't really, we as a community board and the community as a whole can't really analyze what measures are appropriate if we don't understand what are the assumptions that are underlying it. Maybe we disagree with those assumptions.
Yeah, they sort of touch on that again in the document in terms of using the New York City Panel on Climate Change report, community-based assessments. But I have no problem with, you know, highlighting things that are concerning our community specifically. So, you know, but I think that is, their assumptions are based, and we hear about that a lot, right, from MOCEJ, that they're using the New York City Panel on Climate Change report from whenever it was, 2019, as what they're using. So, yeah.
But that's not the only thing that goes into the, it's, they then take those assumptions and do their calculations and say, okay, that means a DFE of 16 and a half.
That's,
or a DFE of 20
it
feet,
seems,
whatever.
I think that's seems fine to,
Yeah.
yeah, I have no objection, certainly. And I don't know, do I have hand, anybody object? No, that seems good. Okay. All right, next.
So this is flexibility on, because climate science is evolving. We want to,
Yeah.
The project itself ideally should be flexible enough in design that if the assumptions change or the science change, that we have the ability to modify either during design or, for that matter, after construction, what the project is.
Yes.
I mean, these are objective. I mean, you can only do so much on some of these things, but I think it's something that should be thought about it as an objective.
I like it. I think it's a very good point, and I don't know that it's in here. So that's a good one. Yep.
Now, I mean, 6 maybe is implicit in all of this, but so perhaps it isn't. You know, severe storms, regular storms, sea level rise, those are different things, but I think that maybe is implicit in all of these projects, so perhaps we don't need that.
Okay.
We do want projects to be complementary with one another. I mean, so far it seems that they've attempted to do that, but none of these can be seen in isolation. And I didn't see that specifically in the city guidelines. Perhaps they're in there. I don't know.
I might even amplify the point that it should be inclusive of all federal, state, and city resiliency measures being proposed.
That makes sense, because they say align with broader city policy and project goals, and that's a guiding principle 12. That's not enough.
Yeah, and I think that is a really critical
all the meetings.
point.
We
Yeah.
do not hear that in all the meetings.
And that's a point that, by the way, Congressman Goldman stressed at that, for those of you who went for that public hearing, the importance of having, you know, as he said, you know, what's going to happen? You're going to do, you know, the new FIDI Seaport Master Plan, and then you do a storm gate, and whoops, we didn't really need that, you know, that kind of unbelievable need of a holistic understanding of how these all work together is critical. So that may even be something we might highlight, and that therefore be it resolved to ask for.
Point 8, I had a hard time articulating, and I don't want it to be taken the wrong way. And what I'm trying to deal with here is that inherently, if you're designing for the 100-year storm, that means there's a 1% chance in any given year that it will occur. But some of these measures that are taken can be quite disruptive. And you need to balance the everyday use of whatever your project area is against this relatively remote but potentially catastrophic risk. And I don't know how to balance it. I put in here, don't destroy everyday enjoyment to protect against a 1% risk, but that may be the wrong way to express it. Because we, in our own personal lives, we buy insurance policies and pay horrendous premiums for things that hopefully never occur. And so it's appropriate to do some pretty drastic things to take account of small but catastrophic risks. So I didn't know how to really articulate it. I'm open to comments and suggestions there.
I see where you're going. I don't know that I could do any better. Justine, I see your hands raised on this. You have a thought?
Yeah, sort of. I guess get what you're trying to say because it makes sense. You're trying to say you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of trying to protect. But at the end of the day, in a 100-year storm, you could lose everything. So I don't know that we have the option to be slow. And I don't know that we have the option not to protect to the 100-year storm because one day it will be 100-year storm. So I guess, does that make any sense?
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I
know if
mean,
we
I say in here,
need this.
balance the infrequency against the severity of harm in the case of the event. And maybe the EG thing is just the thing that should go, because I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't know that we need to say that. It's even number 8 at all. Yeah, I agree. EG needs to go. But isn't that implicit?
I'm happy
Who
to
in God's
drop it.
name wants that
I
stupid
think
wall?
I don't mind it. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, I got some other hands up. Okay, thankfully. Okay, Richard Corman, thought.
I mean, I think this point is addressed when you do a cost benefit analysis. And that's where you determine, you know, what the impact is versus the cost to do it.
Well, except the cost benefit implies, something that a bean counter would say costs this number of dollars that we've seen from the Army Corps. And I'm talking something more holistic here. I mean, we spent an hour earlier talking about not wanting the wall on West Street, but we do want resiliency protection, or maybe we don't. Maybe we say let it flood, let the city flood. We don't want a wall. I mean, that is the issue,
I guess, Jeff, what I see this doing is giving people the chance to say, we don't need the wall because it's not going to flood for 100 years.
Well,
And we need something. I don't like the wall either. We've got to come up
Okay,
with a
whoa,
different
whoa, whoa, whoa,
plan.
whoa. Let's just keep focused here on, okay, so we heard from Richard. I think Jeff's point is more of a quality life issue. Justine, you don't want it in there. It sounds like you don't think it's necessary. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. So,
Okay.
okay.
I think it's fine to keep it for whatever that's worth. Wendy, you had a comment on this particular number 8.
Yeah, I
And
think that
this,
what
I
we're,
would vote against that one myself, just to be clear.
Okay, so 2 against. Okay.
yeah, I think I'd come out against 2 because basically what it is an economic term of a sunk cost versus, it's a cost benefit analysis, but we have so many externalities. And what you're talking about is that, I keep thinking about that, we built this beautiful park that we just heard the presentation on, and it's kind of in its infancy still in terms of using it. And many of us don't want to see it, destroyed because it's pretty new and you don't want to like break your new toy. But, in economics, they talk about the sunk cost fallacy. And, humans are just, our psychology is that we want to keep what we have, even if the problem has changed and we have to look at the future. So, I would probably take it out because the implication when you read that is to do nothing, because our natural tendency is to say, hey, listen, why destroy something that isn't broken? Because any of us can walk out today and we know it's not broken, but, an economic point of view, if an economic professor would say, well, that's a sunk cost fallacy. You can't think about the past. You only think about what the problem is ahead of you, which quite frankly, I think is almost impossible for most of us, at least for me. So I would take it out.
All right, thanks, Wendy. Great. Lucian.
Thanks, Alice. I think just to kind of phrase what Jeff is saying in a different way is if in any given year there's a 1% chance that there's going to be a severe storm that you're designing this for, you don't want to have a 99% chance in every other given year that the resulting public space and environment has been diminished significantly. And I think that by my read of the rest of the points, that point 10 and 11 kind of encapsulate, or guard against that risk if if capital money goes into a resiliency project, part of the design should be to improve the open space enjoyment as well as improving the environmental footprint. So, I mean, in my read, I think that 10 and 11 could be kind of combined to say, you know, investments in resiliency are also investments in the public sphere, and thus should result in, you know, in yield in additional, you know, opportunities for public space enjoyment and environmental, you know, benefit.
I
Um,
I think I just would, if you could pull it up, Lucian, guiding principle 13 and 14 on pages 14 and 15 of the document. Oh my God, speed counts. Look at you. Okay, so if you look at guiding principle 13, for improved neighborhood quality of life and urban design, maybe we just take a look at that for a minute and see, does this at all address what we're talking about? And maybe not. No, the 15,
it
14
appears
is
that it
not that.
does.
Say it again.
Well, it definitely, I mean, to me, it appears that 13 does address the public space usage point,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's see. I mean, the focus on nature-based infrastructure
Yeah, that's a different point.
intrinsically
Right.
seeks to expand opportunities for local wildlife to thrive by creating additional habitat, but may not necessarily achieve other types of goals like, you know, nesting areas for birds and the like, but it could.
Are you guys up with your hands again? Wendy and Richard, I see you both up again. Okay. And then I'm gonna maybe we move on, but nope, lost you. Okay. All right. So,
Well, I guess
oh, Richard, go ahead. Sorry. Richard, you're on mute. Yeah.
So sorry, I remuted. I was agreeing with Lucian. I think this is addressing the issue. It's saying that these projects need to provide improvements in all of these quality of life areas. And so therefore quality of life has to be taken into account as we address it.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that that's somehow
I think it's already addressed
in the
in
guiding principle
13.
13? Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I thought you were saying. Okay. So Jeff, it sounds like, would you be heartsick if we remove this? Because it seems
No,
like
no, I'm, it was a
Yeah.
discussion point. I'm happy
You're
to remove it. And
Okay.
and thanks to scrolling through some of those principles, I think 9 is already picked up in the principles that we just looked at, where there's the ones right after in the book talk about passive being favored and minimize maintenance
Yeah,
and so forth.
yeah.
Just the point that I was trying to drive at there. If you keep going, I think it's on the next page there.
Yeah, so 10 and 11 are
Yeah,
addressed
so
for
15
sure.
maximize passive infrastructure, and then 16, I believe, was minimize maintenance
Right.
and operations and maintenance. Yeah.
So
And
could have,
so I don't think we need my point 9. I think we just agreed that we do want 10 and 11.
You know, the hardest part with 10, I'm sorry to speak out of turn, Jeff, but is that we already have something great. And that was your earlier point. We have beautiful parks that, you know, in order to create resiliency, we actually have to maybe give up something that we don't want to give up. But but that's the problem. That's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah.
So delaying that decision to put in measures so that we can keep what we have longer is a gamble, an insurance gamble is what you're talking about.
Well, I didn't really mean 10 to pick that up. I meant 10 to pick up that whatever it is that you build as part of the resiliency project, you should endeavor to improve on open space enjoyment. from compared to what it was before. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you don't tear up a park and build a new one. In fact, if you are going to tear a park, that does mean you're going to build a new one. That's why I intended to capture in 10, and I intended to capture in 11 that you want to be environmentally conscious in whatever it is that you should, whatever it is that you do.
Okay. I think we're sort of there pretty much. Unless, yeah.
12 is not controversial, I don't think. Of course, you would minimize construction consistent with the requirements of the project. But I don't think I saw it in the other city principles. Maybe it's buried in there someplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine to add them. I'd have to go through everything. I guess we can do that before we go to the full board. I just, again, in the interest of making a document as tight as it can be, so people actually read it in the future, because this is
Yeah.
I would just say if
Now,
yeah.
13 was meant also as a discussion point, not necessarily something that basically I'm explaining human nature here, which is that if you're going to change the built environment, particularly something like removing mature trees, demolishing buildings, or any kind of existing park space, you're likely to generate at least concern and probably opposition, and therefore alternatives that preserve as much are likely to be preferable. But they're, in my mind, they're not necessarily likely to be the best option, but they're likely to be preferable. So I'm open to converting that into a more grammatically correct thing of what it is. I'm open to dropping it out, but I'm just throwing it out for discussion.
I somehow feel like some of these, maybe the draft I have is a little different than the draft that you sent around earlier, but I feel like these things are kind of in the draft I have. Lucian, can you just scroll up on the draft before you get to these points, the whereas CB1 cites the following? Yeah, okay, goal 4, you have goal 4, don't scroll down. Yeah, right there, apply local. So I think those which were discussed and we agreed on a few months ago sort of encompass some of this. So resiliency measures that make Lower Manhattan resilient while preserving and increasing open space for the community. I don't know that we have to parse like who decides what's better or worse in terms of saving a tree, but I think as a general measure, we're looking at that as a sort of comprehensive understanding of what's going on. I don't know. I think these were, yeah.
I hadn't seen these when I sent you what I.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Well, then that's okay. So if they're not here, then yeah. So resiliency measures with minimal impact. So the ones here in gold floor, just so we know, are additional to, and we'll make that clear in that last whereas, additional to the 2021 city principles. And these are the ones that we'll add with the ones that Jeff has kindly given us that we've agreed on, and this group that you see in front of you. So resiliency measures with minimal impact and disruption to existing community urban spaces, vistas, and parks. That frankly seems like it's a redundancy right there.
Yes.
So let us get rid of one of those. Or add, maybe they're slightly different, maybe add one, increasing open space, and then minimal impact.
I'm not sure that I agree with the third point there. Can we discuss it?
Resiliency measures that prioritize the most at-risk and vulnerable areas in the neighborhood first, i.e. pinch points.
Yeah, I have two separate concerns there. One is that I think pinch point, which we've discussed a lot, is something of a red herring. I mean, if you think of the resiliency, the big U, as kind of like a bathtub. I mean, imagine you have a bathtub that's a foot high, but you're anticipating water that's going to be 2 feet high. So you need to do something to protect it. If that 1 foot high bathtub happens to have a few spots that are only 10 inches high, fixing those 2 places that are 10 inches high, the pinch points, does nothing to protect against the 2 foot water. You need to protect everything. And what we have downtown, we don't have any pinch points, so to speak, that if we fix them, we would give ourselves any real meaningful resiliency against the 100-year storm. So I have a problem with pinch point. I have a separate problem with the at most risk and vulnerable areas, because as we all know, FiDi Seaport is that downtown. And that's a good example of the most at risk and vulnerable area. They tend to be the most difficult and most expensive to fix. And if we don't fix anything else until we do the most difficult, most expensive one, then we have large areas where nothing gets done while we're trying to tackle the hardest problem first. So there may be ways to rephrase some of these things, but
Well, I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure
if you
that
want to rephrase it. I actually think I think it's a valid one, mostly because seeing what happened, in fact, in Lower Manhattan with the, Pier A pinch point that, was sort of left
Yeah,
out
if we
there.
fix that without doing the rest, it wouldn't
Well,
solve
nobody's
anything.
saying
So-
to not do it. They're saying, I mean, this reads as prioritizing those areas. So for me, when we discussed the south part of the island, I would have been much more interested to see how the city was, or the state, were going to deal with the most vulnerable areas where the water flooded in, rather than a park that didn't get touched. That to me seemed like an ill-used set of prioritized criteria
Well, but
that
they're
they were
not
using.
protecting the park, they're protecting Lower
Well,
Manhattan.
I
They're
don't
putting
know.
a barrier in the
I
park.
think it should just be the two of us. So let's open it up. Other people would like to remove this particular point 3 under goal 4, have feelings on it, or we'll vote on it. So if I could hear from anybody else that hasn't spoken on this point, anybody? So, okay, I'm just going to ask for a show of hands. How many people would like to remove point 3 from goal 4? I have two hands of moving it. Okay. I need everybody's cameras on,
I think
please.
you have 3, unless Jeff not raising his hand. You need to raise your hand.
Lucian, you want to take a vote here because I can't without people's phone.
Okay, I'm gonna take this down to be able to see everyone. Let's see.
I wish people would put their cameras on if they're able to. It would be really helpful in all of our meetings that you do that. It's
And,
really
and
helpful.
just to be clear, this is just a vote on. This is just kind of like a feel in the
That's
room vote for that
exactly.
particular item.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just because we got to move
Well,
forward and
I would just go in the affirmative of just say, assuming you keep it, who would like to see it struck, and then just say your name, and then I'll know.
Could we possibly just take out the term pinch point and just leave it as most vulnerable? It makes it a little bit more open to, I think, community judgment that is relevant.
Okay, no objection from my end. Taking out pinch point. Okay, so we've now taken out pinch point. Resiliency measures that prioritize the most at-risk and vulnerable areas in the neighborhood first, or prioritize, I guess you don't have to put first. Just prioritize the most at-risk and vulnerable areas in the neighborhood and take out first, i.e. pinch points. So how many people, I'm sorry, Lucian, what was the way you wanted me to, go ahead, Lucian.
Okay, well now it seems like the message is to remove the reference to pinch points and just make the statement to prioritize and see if, assuming that that's what people want, is anyone opposed to that change? I suppose in favor of removing it entirely.
I think I'm with Jeff in terms of it's not the way.
Okay,
it's
so
done.
so that's a vote. So I'm sorry, could I get a show of hands to Lucian's question? This is removal.
As
This is
is,
for
as it's
removal.
written now, and we see it. So it just says resiliency measures that prioritize the most at-risk and vulnerable areas in the neighborhood. Whether we agree with that sentence or not, right?
Correct.
Right, I wouldn't want us to not do anything until we fix FiDi. I mean,
Okay, so I'm seeing 4 out of 8. Wait, 9. Laura's screen's not on, so I'm not counting Laura.
I'll still support the resolution, but I would prefer not to have that bullet point.
Understood. Okay.
Exactly.
So I
That's
just,
exactly right.
so
We're
I
taking
had
it.
counted 4 out of 9. So it looks like right now the committee is favoring to alter that part of the resolution and keep it in.
Okay. all right, so that you see the other two, resiliency measures the priorities, community needs, and demonstrate and engage partnership in all levels of design, particularly at inception. Oh, that's interesting. I think that answers one of your other suggestions, Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, the part particularly at inception.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we could remove the one that Jeff has that that's redundant there on that point. And then the last one, resiliency measures which face your neighborhood-based solutions, prioritizing greenscape over construction, avoiding construction and demolition, the negative cities commitments reduction. Okay, well, that's a long one. I think that's all in the planning guidelines, but it came up as something additional in the last meeting. So any thoughts that
I mean, I think it is in already, but
yeah, so maybe we can get rid of that. Any thoughts, anybody?
Can we get that back up on the screen?
You want to get rid of this one?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it isn't up on the screen.
Oh,
On my screen.
gosh. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's on my screen. Exactly. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. So I struck this just to show people what I've done. I've struck the item 2 because it looks like it's being covered here at this point.
Mhm.
Demonstrate and engage partnership. Well, is that what you were saying before?
can you show what's being struck as?
The
Yes, I think so.
resiliency objective should be defined clearly early on. Is that what I was
It's
hearing?
the same thing, yeah.
Yeah,
To
well,
make-
the same.
No?
I don't think they're the same.
Okay, so let's not discuss it. Let's just leave it because I think, yeah,
Okay.
parsing
And
this
so
to
for-
this kind of level of details, maybe not the most. Okay, and so this last one we're saying is within the document under the nature-based solution
Yes, it
aspect.
seems
So
that's the case.
I think we can, unless somebody feels strongly to keep it in. But I don't know if the city goes into, actually, wait a minute. I don't know that it does talk about greenhouse gas emissions. So that's actually an important point. So don't, resilience message which
I think that
avoiding construction and demo, so maybe which favor, you could take out which favor nature-based resiliency measures because we have that, but you know what, just leave it because we don't have the demolition. No, I see why it's in there. Okay. All right, forget it.
I
It's staying.
think that the way that could read though is to do nothing.
To do nothing.
Meaning that construction and greenhouse gases, I mean, there could be a whole, I mean, we've gone to a lot of meetings over the last
We're
5
asking
years.
for prioritizing, not to simply not do it, but to try to avoid certain measures as a principle. That's all. It's not trying to.
So I
not-
think there's a big spectrum out there. When you ask people about resiliency, there are people at great universities that we went to presentations up at, Columbia, who are, professor level people and great thought leaders who are actually saying managed retreat for Manhattan. And when I hear managed retreat for Manhattan, I mean, there's nothing about Manhattan other than the very tip of northern Manhattan that's not engineered from the earliest days of our founding. I mean, Central Park, we just heard a whole presentation about how lower Manhattan is all engineered.
I'm sorry. So let's, Wendy, so what would you like to, I'm sorry, you want us
I mean,
to
I'm very
strike this? Is that what you're
nervous.
saying?
Yeah, I'm very nervous that we're talking about avoiding construction, and because it's going to involve construction.
So this reads, just for everybody's, just to remind everyone, resiliency measures which favor
Yes.
nature-based resiliency solutions, prioritizing greenscape over construction, avoiding construction and demolition that negatively impacts the city's commitment to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. I don't think there's anything there that's that controversial or seems that different than everything else, but you're entitled to your opinion. So anybody else want to remove it? I think here Wendy wants to remove this. Fair.
Or at least the latter part of it.
Yeah. What if
Okay.
you put a period after the first word construction?
I don't think we need it. You know what? Because it is within the document. I'm reading it over.
I'm sorry, can I say
Yeah.
something? I do think it's important and to a certain extent. And if you want to why don't we just say resiliency measures that avoid construction and demolition that negatively impact, or something to that effect. I think you have to have something in there about avoiding, impacting the commitment to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Why would you strike that out?
Okay,
think it's
it's
to
a fair,
Wendy's
this
Because
is a good,
fair
yeah,
play.
okay, whoa, excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna
it's
take a vote on this. I'm gonna take a vote on this particular 1, 2, 3, 4, because there seems to be some 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth, the fifth, bullet item under goal 4. Could I get a vote on people that wish to remove it? And I see, if you could just put your hand up as an icon in the screen, it'll be easier to, so I have 1, 2, Lucian, are you with us counting? 3.
Yeah. Sarah Costello has her hand up as well.
Okay,
that
so
would be
that's
4.
4. Okay, so 4, and what are we? There's
9.
9. Okay, so it stays. I think that's the only way to do this, or we'll all drive ourselves crazy.
I would just, let me just, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever value this is, the way I would read that thing, it says, assuming we reach the same goal, you want to prioritize nature-based solutions. So I would, that's why I would vote for it. It's not to say don't do anything. It says if you reach the goal of this resiliency through nature-based, prefer that.
Well, the first part of the sentence says that, the last part says avoid construction, and that means you don't do anything. That's,
Exactly,
I'm
and
in
that's my
favor of the
problem.
first
The
part.
avoid construction wording is what bothers me. Because yeah,
Exactly.
otherwise,
There's nothing, you cannot protect Lower Manhattan by avoiding construction.
yeah, I mean, just getting rid of this. What if it just said, resiliency measures would favor nature-based resiliency solutions, prioritizing greenscape over construction.
Period.
That
That negatively
support,
impacts the
how about
city's
that support,
commitment.
that support the city's commitment to the reduction of greenhouse gas
Yeah,
emissions.
and that support, okay, that nature-based prioritizing green space over construction and
That
support.
support the city's commitment to reduction of
That would
greenhouse
be,
gas
that would be
emissions.
good, yeah. 'Cause
Vera, does
I-
that, okay, thanks, Justine. Vera, does that satisfy what you were looking for?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
great, thank
definitely.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right, so I think we're at
Can
the
you
therefore
finish that
be.
one more time, Alice? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
Support the
sorry.
city's
So,
commitment.
Greenscape on that, sorry. So resiliency measures which favor nature-based resiliency solutions, prioritizing greenscape over construction, and that supports the city's commitment to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions.
So Alice, can I just make just a question?
Sure.
So my question is that the purpose of these principles, right, are the guiding principles are for future projects to protect against resiliency. And we all know right now that
Well, to protect against flood protection, not
flood
against
protection,
resiliency.
exactly.
Yeah.
Resiliency, flood protection.
But, yeah.
And we just heard in an earlier presentation, use everything that you have at your disposal, including the courts. And, you do everything you can to lobby your point of view. And one of the things that I'm nervous about is that I think if you put this word about construction with greenhouse gas emissions in there, that basically, it's like we should never fly again. We all know what we should be doing, and yet we might not meet the goal. So
okay.
I think that is what we think we're writing and what we're actually writing to somebody who's going to litigate. Those are different things. That's my point.
Right. Okay. I don't have an answer to you. I mean, I don't know if it's a question. It sounds a little more like a statement, but whatever. I hear you. We all, this is the beauty of this meeting, to discuss it. So I think, unless, you can, it seemed like the first rendition was already accepted. So the second one, which takes away the wording that seemed to bother Jeff and you originally, is out, most of it. So I think it's staying in the version we gave, which is supporting the reduction of greenhouse gas emission. I don't know, if people want to discuss that more. New voices on this are welcome, but I think we've kind of batted it out a bit. So I think excuse me. Okay, what
Sorry,
is this
Alice.
something new that? Okay,
Well, yeah,
I think
just making one more suggestion and then just It
And then
could
we're
be
going to let this
overrun,
go.
but
Yeah, this will be the last run on this. Yeah.
just get rid of it, get rid of greenscape, get rid of over construction. Solutions prioritizing greenscape and that supports the city's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas
That
emissions.
seems like a great idea, Justine. Great. Comes in
That
the final
seems
hour.
like it addresses everything.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
I would agree
Okay,
with that.
so
That's
let's,
great.
okay, so great. Thank you all very much for that. So there, we're at the therefore be it resolves and resolves. And so I think the one thing that we've stressed here is the need, and so Lucian, if you can somehow, wordsmith something that makes clear the need for we've addressed it here slightly, but we really need to underline the importance of having the federal voice with the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the other groups that are not mentioned in the earlier part of the second whereas of this resolution. I think most of them are, but for example, State Department of Transportation is not mentioned. Is the State Department of Environmental Conservation is not mentioned, and of course the United States Army Corps. So those really should be highlighted as therefore be resolves that the principles should be inclusive of the reports from these organizations, and that of course we allow for a great deal of flexibility and some way to these things can change over time. I don't know, Jeff, maybe you can throw in a little of your magic with wording that in some way that is a tad more coherent. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, actually, my mind was wandering as I was realizing another whereas that I wanted to add of sort of a general support of resiliency projects. So we don't lose that thought. But stay your question again, and I'll.
Well, we were just trying to make sure that we've included the point about having all. Well, anyway, I just said, okay, thank goodness it's recorded so we can go back. But Lucian, we were looking at making sure that we have, you touched on it a tad, which the flexibility of making these principles, allowing these principles to change over time. That this is a document that has the ability to be, reviewed in the future and changed. And two, that well, I guess that's implied in any document, but the other is very critical, the point that the State DOP, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, the State Department of Environmental Conservation, the groups that are not part of this second whereas, were the city agencies that originally looked and created these neighborhood planning guidance report here that we're working with. Some of these groups were not included. So the ones I've just enumerated, and particularly the federal government. So that we should definitely call out as a therefore be it resolved that we look to them to be involved in reviewing these principles and adding any that they may come up with as we go forward, or I don't know, engaging in some way that they're part of the review process of going forward.
Alice,
So,
I think we should add a further be it resolved that we call upon all agencies, authorities, and other official bodies of the government at any level to review these priorities and to any degree possible incorporate them in their own, planning and project design.
yeah, I
looking
would.
forward.
Yeah, I would ask that we actually, though, do specifically identify United States Army Corps, State
Well,
Department of Transportation, and all
we
the
have
agency. Yeah.
we have a whereas where we
Right.
can where we're kind of dumping all those in
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and so I'm making notes of additional.
Well, okay, wait, whoa. That second whereas, Lucian, that I wrote is that that's identifying the city agencies that
Oh,
created these guidelines, and I wanted to make that very clear. So I would add to the whereas you have in 2021, the following agencies created this document that we're adopting. That's not clear
Sure.
yet. Yeah, and then but what's missing from that group of agencies are the folks that we're now asking to participate, right?
But I think that by the way that Lucian said it, he's catching federal, state agencies and whatever. So, because like the Battery Park City Authority, you want them to collaborate as well, right?
Well, I was going to mention them specifically. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So Battery Park City Authority, Hudson River Park Trust, state DOT, federal agency, of U.S. United States Army Corps. I mean, I- it whichever way you want to do it, but I would be pretty specific so that we have ourselves covered. Because remember, this is Lower Manhattan's coastal resiliency plan, so we really want those groups that are really important in looking at what we're doing. But however, everybody wants to see it. Okay, Richard, your hand is up.
Yes. Could we go to the second bullet of the local priorities?
I'm sorry.
The, no, not Jeff's thing. Not Jeff's.
The one that was on the go up the second under goal 4.
Yeah,
There you
right.
go.
Goal 4. So when I read this, it would say that we want minimal impact and disruption with any project. But then when you think about what we just saw today with, and what we talked about earlier about thinking about redoing the entire 9A and thinking about how to, transform some of this park and even, bury these giant sewage treatment pipes. Very disruptive, but things that we should seriously consider doing for all the reasons that we've talked about earlier. And so I would suggest that we modify this and say, with minimal impact, et cetera, wherever possible, or which enhance the and better achieve the objectives that are built into these goals and priorities, and enhance our community urban experience, something along those lines. Sorry, I'm sort of making it up here, but I think we want to leave open, which I'm not sure this does, leave open the options of very significant projects that really will make a difference and that will be disruptive, but will provide us with a much better outcome.
It's a good point. I see Jeff's hand is raised.
Yeah, I was going to say that I had exactly the same thought, Richard, when we had the presentation on Hudson River Park earlier, that the only way to avoid a wall along West Street is to have, I think, a pretty radical rethinking of 9A itself. I mean, there was mention of a buried flood wall.
Right.
I mean, we saw that's basically what the Wagner Park project ended up being. But the only way to avoid a wall, unless the climate change projections come out differently, is likely to be much more, the wall itself is likely to be much less disruptive from a construction perspective and a preservation of existing parkland perspective than a solution that doesn't have a wall. And so I wouldn't want it to be perceived that therefore we favor the one with the wall.
That's exactly my thinking,
unique to the
Jeff.
circumstances.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a very
That's exactly
important
right.
point, 100%. So glad we had that presentation. It makes you think, right? This was, I remember, something that was brought up a couple of times at the previous meeting. So how would you like to reword it, if at all, or, any thoughts from the crowd here?
Let's see.
Or
It's kind of the point that I was trying to make earlier about it may be preferable to prioritize keeping things the way they are, but it's not necessarily the solution in any given situation. I mean, maybe we just drop that bullet point in light of what we heard earlier today.
How do people feel about that? Anyone object to dropping that bullet point? Strongly object, I should ask. Okay, I don't see hands with a,
Yeah,
Richard
I
hand
mean,
is
you
up.
could, yeah, you could probably drop it or some language like, um, or alternatively, which enhance and improve the community urban experience and better meet the goals of these objectives.
I like that.
Either I would, one or the other, either drop it or some language like that.
Problem with adding that language, it sounds good, but it then it's just contradictory. Why, it's like do this or that. Well, okay.
Okay, I think in the interest of, you know, moving forward, well, we might want to
Just drop it.
drop it. Okay. I see Rosa has joined the conversation. I don't know at what point, but welcome, Rosa. Her hand is up. Lucian of the attendee section.
Okay, well, we pull her out of there.
Hey, Rosa.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering if it's more about prioritizing the quality of life and the lived experience. I don't know how to wordsmith that, but prioritizing how we experience the ramifications of this flood protection measure day in, day out.
I'm sorry. What is this within what we were talking about here? The
Yes, yes.
bullet point
Basically
two.
yes, basically to Richard's point that, you know, we end up having to live with this space all the time. And so if it is about doing more work, but to be with the goal of actually having a livable space that has value to us every single day as a community, then that would be worth the efforts and the disruption of the work that we're talking about. That was it.
So
I
maybe
think we may have tried to capture that in some of the points from mine that I think survived the cutting room.
all right, why don't you know what? Let's do
I
this
think
because
this-
it's getting
okay.
late. Why don't we? I'm going to leave it to you, Jeff. If you see something in one of your points and you want to redo this in some sentence that, or Richard or anybody, just go ahead and send it to Lucian and to me. We'll obviously act it. It'll be part of as an amendment if it needs to be, because we could be here all night. Maybe.
Yeah, if Lucian circulates whatever he has been able to translate from our discussion here.
I think
then
it's
we
all
can-
here. I think, well, we're going to vote on it now. So I think everything but this point, which it sounds like we're removing and rewriting, and we will accept as a friendly amendment if need be. Jeff, does that sound like a good way to?
It sounds fine. I mean, we're only seeing bits and pieces of it at a time, and I don't know if this document is shared with all of us or not.
Oh, this document was shared with everybody, this draft, and now it's up on the screen. So I think it's fair to say everyone's has a view of it, right? Lucian, is that not correct?
Yeah, the link that went into the chat
Oh.
will point to the
Document.
current version of this draft document forever and ever. So
Every
even
change
as it's
was
prepared
made,
for
you can
full
see.
board, you'll see any of those changes if you have this link.
I mean, it seems like the second bullet, which, Rose was, suggesting of using the idea of quality of life as the sort of balanced piece. I don't have an answer to the wording on that. So if somebody wants to actually give wording for this right now, we'll have it. Otherwise, we're gonna get it later, it sounds like. I mean, Jeff or Rosa or Richard, who've spoken up on this, or Wendy, if you want to give the specific language to Lucian, I don't have it. I'm sorry.
Rosa, I don't know if you heard some of our earlier discussion, but we do have some points in there that projects should improve open space enjoyment and so forth.
Well, we don't have to review all that again, but I'm just talking about that one point that seemed to be one that we were going to remove or reword. So,
As I brought it up, I'm kind of in the camp of removing it because I think all the rest of it leads us to prioritize things that enhance our enhance our lived life here, our lived environment.
All right. Well, I think none of us are going to object to moving on unless somebody does. I'm supportive of that and would like to call this to a vote if everybody's ready as the committee to adopt these principles. Do I have a second?
Seconded, but I don't wanna, anybody out. I seconded.
Yeah, you're on our committee. Can
Oh,
anybody?
no, I'm not. I have to be
Oh,
quiet. I'm
I'll
quiet now.
second. I'll second.
Okay. No, I mean, I'm delighted to have you, Trustee Gregos. I'm not sure if that's kosher to do that. Okay, so Richard seconded it. Okay, so Lucian, time for showtime here for a vote.
Yes, I'm just flipping back to my vote sheet to verify exactly who is on this committee. And of course, we'll need to have cameras on for this vote. So I'm only going to be looking for one, two. Thank you, Justine. That helps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 members of the committee are here. Double checking. Quorum is 8. So let's go ahead. All those in favor. I was just assuming that everyone's in favor. Any opposed? One opposed. Any abstaining?
Mahoney.
Mahoney
Vera.
abstains.
Sung.
Sung abstains. Any recusing themselves? Okay, so that'd be 5 in favor and 2 opposed, 1 opposed, 2 abstaining. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. Okay. So I think, so I brought up the idea of having another resolution for supporting the West Side Resiliency Task Force. I think I'm going to allow that to be addressed in April. Can I do it that way, in the interest of time, Lucian, so that it's on our agenda as a,
Yeah, I
we
think it
do
would be
that?
great to prepare for that
Yeah.
in April. Yeah.
So I'd love folks' thoughts on that we will do that resolution next time. And then I just wanted to take a minute just before everybody goes. I wanted to, and I hope he's still here. Oh, yes, he is. There's a wonderful fellow who I ran into who has been dutifully coming to our meetings, but because we are not in person, I never have seen him or even knew it. And his name is Joel Grayson. And he is, just incredibly energetic and smart and young and thoughtful. And he's really interested in what we do as a committee. And he's really been very, he's got a lot to say and he's doing a lot of really interesting work. So I just asked him if he'd give a 2-minute description of who he is. He's a high school student, which is a rarity around these parts. And we're hopeful that he'll even join us on the board or at least consider it. So I just want to give him a minute to talk about what he's doing, if that's okay.
Thank you so much.
So, there you go, Joel Grayson, welcome. And
Yes,
is there a
it's
way to
great.
get a picture of you on? Can he? Oh, there he is. Oh, hi. Look at
You
that.
see me?
He's there, he's there.
Hey.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm so glad that all of us are working together on this. I enjoy, looking at a resolution, and I guess I'll just say a little bit about myself. So yes, I'm a high school junior at Riverdale Country School. I live in 176 Broadway, which is the same building as Catherine Hughes was, and she really encouraged me to join. And I have done a few environmental initiatives at my school. The first one is I worked with my head of school and encouraged him to get solar panels for my school. And working with solar companies and going on the roofs myself, I made some measurements, created models, and presented to the board. And I'm glad to say that we're going ahead with a 410 kilowatt installation. And the other thing is that I'm leading Students for Electric Buses right now. So this is really related to New York City laws, such as what is happening with what de Blasio said last year, but also what New York State is doing now around public schools and electric buses. But I go to a private school, so that's sort of transition is not quite happening yet. And so that's why we are pushing at my school and 2 neighboring schools to get a transition for our private school system. And I believe that these incentives should be expanded to private schools, but that's a separate issue. And also small things. I got electric leaf blowers for my school, and Local Law 97 is actually very relevant, even before I heard about the community board, because there are measures that my school and also my building are taking to deal with these new local laws. So again, I'm very excited to be in this committee, and yeah, I look forward to working on Local Law 97, the resiliency projects, and any other resolutions we have.
Well, big thank you to you, Joel, and big welcome, and really delighted to have you participate. It really is fantastic. So that's a very nice way to end our meeting. I really thank you for your contribution and for everybody's tonight. And signing off. Good night, all, and
Yeah.
thank you.
Night
Bye-bye.
all.
Everybody, thank you. And Alice, what a great job having that guy from for Local Law 96.